1st, those people are probably saving a carload of cash right now. So what are you waiting for? Check Allstate for a quote today. You're in good hands with Allstate.
All right, San Diego Sports 760, John Schaefer, Sammy Long. We've got a really good show lined up for the next 4 hours as you get you ready for Aztecs basketball tonight, this critical game against Utah State that we've talked about for the last 3 days. It's at 8 p.m., pregame coverage at 7. We have San Diego State UNLV tickets, right, for senior night to give away. San Diego State UNLV will give that away here today. We got a unique show. I'm excited to reconnect with Darren Smith, who will join us over the phone at 3 p.m. We'll talk about SDFC start, which was terrific. We'll catch up with Darren in general. So Darren's here at 3. We have Chargers Hall of Famer Wes Chandler, who starred way back in the day for the Chargers. He's going to tell us about an upcoming event in March, a golf tournament. So we'll talk about that with Wes Chandler in studio in about 15 or 20 minutes. And then the return of Ben Fadden talking Friars. At 3:15, Ben's going to swing by. He's going to be in studio for a little bit. We'll talk about Padres spring training and the latest storylines. Before we get to some ownership discussion involving the Padres, I just wanted to start with the Aztecs because we're just a few hours away from arguably their biggest game of the year. This kind of must win. We're finally at that point in the year. It might actually be, Sammy, a must win for San Diego State. Everyone wants the team to bring it tonight. This isn't a conversation about that. Obviously, you want to see the Aztecs win if you're an Aztec fan. From a fan perspective, I hope tonight is the night that everyone uses all the pent-up frustration, right? Everything that's been said, all the chatter on social media, bring it and use it as positive energy to help San Diego State will them to a win. Obviously, the team's got to do its part, right? I mean, the team is most important here. The fans aren't going to be, making shots and blocking shots and rebounding the ball. But I hope tonight is one of those nights we look back on and say that was one of the true great home court advantages in the country, which we've said so many times over the years about Viejas Arena. I know there's been a lot of discontent over the last week with Aztec fans. Tonight is the night to kind of compartmentalize, use all your frustration, if you have any, over the last 2 games, and put it out, or take it out, so to speak, on Utah State and create a great home.
Well, and this is one of the teams that why you're not sitting pretty. I mean, you played Utah State. That game, I got to give the Aztecs a lot of credit in it. They were up 7 points in the first half at one point. They ended up tying it at halftime. The second half, they built another 7-point lead. Then they went on that 4 to 5 minute scoring drought at the end of the game. It's a tough place to play. You're on the road. They were dogs in that game. I believe they were like 7-point dogs. So credit to them for really getting after it. But we talked about early on in the year when they lost in the Players Era tournament, there's time and it's early and Magoon-Guas coming off injury. I think when you say the biggest game of the year, this is the first time this year, not that they face adversity, but they face adversity where there's not a long leash to gain it back. I mean, this is, we've gotten to all week. Do they have a chance at an at-large bid? That's kind of up for discussion. But even if, let's say they don't, a win tonight, I think instills a lot of confidence in who the Aztecs can be, which is why people picked them unanimously to win the Mountain West. I mean, you have all the talent in the world, and BJ Davis, Miles Bird, Reese Dixon Waters, Magoon-Guas. That's a talented team that could go do some serious damage in the Mountain West Conference tournament and in March Madness. But I think if you lose tonight and Utah State comes into your home floor, Grand Canyon's got you twice, Utah State's got you twice, and the teams that you're going to have to go through to get to the NCAA tournament are you haven't proved you can beat this year. I think they can because of the talent, but you haven't proved it on the court. This is a real statement game tonight to realize that through the Mountain West Conference tournament, you're still going to have to take the Aztecs out.
Completely agree. I think it's spot on. And it's one of those, like, I don't even know what the cliche is, but to me, it's kind of that, like, it's a little bit of a burn the ships moment from the team. I'm going to use every cliche right now. Us against the world, like whatever it takes to get the most out of you, you got to use to your advantage. Whatever it is, what someone DM'd you, what you read online, what you heard people say about you, you got to take it all out positively on Utah State. This is the night where you need to put 40 minutes together, both halves, fast starts, build leads and hold them. None of this is going to be easy. Utah State's one of the best teams in the country. They really are. I mean, their metrics are top 25 everywhere. They've been an elite team. Like, it's hard to discredit Utah State. It's going to take San Diego State's best to beat Utah State. I think they're capable of it. that alone isn't going to. That doesn't mean they're in the NCAA tournament, or they're going to win the Mountain West tournament, or they're going to rattle off 3 or 4 consecutive games. But it's, a little bit of like, it ends right now. Our last 2 games where we haven't played to our capabilities, it puts some of our confidence back with us moving forward as we head to the pit on Saturday. And we'll see. It's hard because you're playing a team as good as Utah State. You can play really well and lose. Like, I think they'll need to play really well, and then they'll be in a position, hopefully, to win the game.
Well, I think if they right the ship tonight, again, everything you say is very true about it. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go win the Mountain West Conference tournament. It doesn't mean they're going to get an at-large bid. But what it does is I think you look at the season in chunks. The Troy loss and the Players Era tournament was a bad week and a half, 2 weeks of basketball for the Aztecs. For a majority of the Mountain West Conference slate, again, outside of the last week, I think the Aztecs have played really good basketball, because even the 2 early losses, Grand Canyon, rough call at the end there on the road. This Utah State team, I thought they fought really well in that game. They didn't really execute down the stretch, but given some injuries on the road, you were dogs. I thought they acquitted themselves well in that game without getting the win. Now, the last week, not going to make excuses. Grand Canyon came in here and kind of imposed their will, and I think Colorado State caught them lacking a little bit on Saturday, maybe thinking about the last loss a little too much. But if you win tonight, you look at the season in chunks and go overall in the Mountain West Conference play, you feel good about what the Aztecs have done heading into the Mountain West Conference tournament. But if you lose tonight, again, it's back to where's your signature marquee win on the schedule? Where's the one you can point to that you go, we put it all together on that night? If we can play like that, that's how we can move going forward. This is a prime opportunity against a tournament team to do that.
Yeah, the problem is if you don't win tonight, it doesn't get easier. You go to New Mexico. I mean, the pit is you think Viejas is a tough place to play, or Logan is a tough place to play. The pit is a tough place to play. Like, there is no rest for the weary. And I'm just using every cliche in the book. But, you go to New Mexico. If you don't win that game, you go to Boise for their senior night. You have to put 40 minutes together. Like, this is the night it needs to be put together. Easier said than done. I mean, it's very easy for me to say it. So I'm fascinated to see what it looks like. I know the crowd can play a huge role. I just know it. You look at how good San Diego State traditionally is at Viejas Arena. I think it's one of the most underrated home court advantages in America. It doesn't get near the discussion of Rupp or Fog Allen or Cameron Indoor. Right? It doesn't have that national rep. But
there's a reason why teams don't want to schedule San Diego State in the non-conference.
You've seen it at its best. Utah State has its own advantages. Their student section is absurd. It's really absurd. The pit has its own advantages at elevation, the way it's built, the noise factor in there as well. Viejas can be that building. We've seen it time and time again.
Well, in this year, there's been 2 losses at Viejas. It's been Troy, which was I think you can't throw the game out. Obviously, it's holding the Aztecs back right now from an at-large bid. But that was Troy shot the ball exceptionally well. They almost went into USC a couple days later and almost won there. So it was just like a lightning in a bottle, wrong time to play that team. And then again, Grand Canyon came in, executed the game plan. And Henley, you had the stat last week, the guard for Grand Canyon, 4-0 between UNLV and there. Some teams just have other teams' numbers, and Nevada's beating all these teams in the Mountain West Mountain West right now.
Yep.
The Aztecs have Nevada's number. Grand Canyon, as of right now, has the Aztecs number. We're going to see about Utah State tonight. They're 1-0 against the Aztecs, but by and large, the Aztecs have been able to defend home court so far this year, outside of Grand Canyon and Troy. So you do feel like the odds makers have it right, and that the Aztecs are a 1.5 point favorite tonight. But it is fun though that we're getting a game. In college basketball season you can read into a lot of kind of minor games. It's fun that there's a single game that I think I'm not going to say the Aztec season's done if they lose tonight, because again, they can go win the Mountain West Conference tournament. But if they lose tonight, you start having a lot of questions of whether they can get that swag and kind of confidence back heading down the stretch here. And if they win, I think we have a whole new outlook on this team and can maybe flush the bad week of basketball.
It's interesting you say that, because a year ago, like teams having teams number, Utah State's won 3 straight against the Aztecs. They stole a game here last December. I don't know if people remember it. Tucker Anderson, center drained a 3 late. The Aztecs had the game won. I haven't even read a recap on it, but I'm remembering there was a controversial block charge that went against Miles Bird in the final minute. That was clear as day.
McKinney, I think, threw it up from half court at the end.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. But the game was over if they called a charge, but they called a block, and it kind of gave Utah State a little bit of life.
The Aztecs were up 9 in that game when that happened.
I don't know if in that exact moment it was 9. It might have been 6. They were definitely up 9 in the second half. They were ranked. San Diego State was 20th in America. That was, and I have the note here. That Utah State win was their first road win at San Diego State since 1999. Wow. So San Diego State has dominated Utah State in the Mountain West era at home. Now, what does that really mean? We'll see. It was also Utah State's first. Listen to this craziness. Utah State's been in the tournament, I think, 6 of the last 7 years if they get in this year. And they would have been in during the COVID year because they had won the automatic bid over 30-2 San Diego State. But their win in San Diego last year against a top 25 team was their first road win over a top 25 team since 1991.
Wow.
So it was rare. It was like lightning in a bottle type stuff for Utah State. So on one hand, it's like, man, Utah State's really dominated the Aztecs the last couple of years. On the other hand, the only Utah State win here in San Diego in the Mountain West era was last year in a remarkable comeback that included a 3x7 footer in the final seconds that shocked the Aztecs in a 67-66 win. So my point is, it's not like it's just some cakewalk for Utah State.
Yes, in the game this year on the road for the Aztecs, I'm not going to say it was a good game. And I was surprised. I remember watching that game, and when the Aztecs had a 7 to 9 point lead earlier, like, okay, Aztecs came out with a lot of heart, a lot of energy. They tie it. The crowd's going crazy, and you're like, oh, is Utah State going to open this thing up in the second half because the Aztecs gave up their lead, kind of like what happened against Arizona. And you got to give the Aztecs credit. They built another, I believe, 7 to 9 point lead in the second half, and then they just had that massive drought at the end of the game. By and large, I think the Aztecs kind of outplayed Utah State in Utah. It was just a really bad last 4 minutes of the game where they went on a scoring drought. So I agree with you. This is not some insurmountable thing. The Aztecs, I believe, in terms of talent, are on par with them. I think it really is about, can the big three, the big four, figure out how to consistently play together? Because it feels like last game out, Miles Bird has a great showing. Reese Dixon Waters, Magoon Guath leave a lot to be desired. The previous game, Reese Dixon Waters, BJ Davis, and Magoon Guath are the star. Miles Bird is not aggressive offensively. It's like all these guys are trying to kind of figure out how to coexist. And that's what I'm looking for in the final couple weeks of the season.
Hopefully a good sign is that for the first time in forever, San Diego State does not have any player listed on the availability report, because an availability report, which is new to college basketball, it's basically for bettors, but it gives you a feel for the health of these teams. So San Diego State has had LZ Harrington on, like, hey, he's out due to a leg injury. Magoon Guath has been out due to a hip flexor injury. And then even last game, Magoon Guath had returned, obviously, but he was questionable heading into that game because of, I think Dutch said postgame, knee and back soreness. Well, tonight, San Diego State currently does not have a player listed. So nobody's questionable. Nobody's out as we sit here right now. San Diego State, as quote unquote healthy as maybe as you can be. It doesn't mean they're fully healthy, but I think they're relatively healthy heading into this game. Same thing for Utah State. They will be healthy heading into this game. 8:00 is the tip time, our pregame coverage at 7 p.m. Much more on this game coming up between now and 6 p.m. I believe we're going to be joined in studio by a Chargers Hall of Famer, Wes Chandler, who starred in the early 1980s in San Diego, a San Diego Chargers Hall of Famer. He's going to tell us about the celebrity signing party and Gridiron Legends golf tournament coming up in March here in San Diego. So Wes Chandler hopefully joins us coming up. On the other side, then a possible buyer of the Padres that is already a name that a lot of San Diegans know. And we'll discuss that coming up later this hour as well. Darren Smith will join us at 3 p.m. Ben Fadden from Talking Friars in studio. Later in the 3 o'clock hour, John Schaefer and Sammy Long. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760, live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, San Diego Sports 760. John Schaefer, Sammy Long. We're going to connect, I believe, in studio with Wes Chandler, who is going to be a part of the celebrity signing party and Gridiron Legends golf tournament coming up this March. So looking forward to doing that with Wes Chandler. Might join us any moment here on San Diego Sports 760. Again, Darren Smith will join us in studio. No, he won't. He's going to call in at 3 p.m. Darren's like, what? I'm not coming in studio. Darren's going to join us over the phone. Let's see. Hold on. I have an update here. I don't think he's here as of yet, Wes Chandler, but here's the beauty of a 4-hour show.
There's time.
He can join us anytime. He could come by in 10 minutes. He could come by an hour and 10 minutes. All good. So we'll get Wes Chandler with us because he's going to be here at the iHeart Studios at some point here this afternoon. All good. Thank you for the update. All right, here's where I want to transition then. This is just like a 3-second clip before the SDFC opener against Montreal with their owner, Mohamed Mansour. Do you have this clip or no? Okay. You didn't. Okay. You don't even need to. I mean, it's the easiest. You could play it honestly over whatever you have, Brent. It's literally 3 seconds. It won't appear on YouTube. You won't hear it on YouTube, but it's a 3-second clip from Mohamed Mansour. And he was asked, I think by CBS 8 about the prospect of putting in a bid for the San Diego Padres.
Wow.
I never put in the rundown. Am I in the wrong rundown?
I think there are 2 rundowns.
There's 2 rundowns, which is my fault. Yeah, I'm in the wrong rundown. I'm in the wrong rundown.
But that is pretty crazy. Now it'd be cool that you would have kind of merging the city and SDFC in the Padres. Obviously, this is someone who, if the concern has been locally that the new owner is not going to care about the team, which we've gotten into, Again, John Seiler is not Peter Seiler. Peter Seiler shared a vision for this team that was trying to go beat the Dodgers. John Seiler has not, through his wallet, shown that he cares about that quite as much. But if the concern is someone coming in here, whether it's Friedkin or Lacob or whoever, and just kind of sitting the Padres in his back pocket as an owner, I mean, the SDFC owner would be perfect. I mean, you're talking about, look what they've done for the city. Look what they have clearly invested in San Diego. It made SDFC one of the hottest tickets in town in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. It was a 3-second clip of him like walking into the stadium, and he didn't say like, yeah, I'm a bidder, but he didn't rule it out. Essentially, it wasn't a no. Just trust me. Maybe you've seen it on social media. It's not a no from Mohamed Mansour, who's the current owner of SDFC. He had his bid for SDFC was the richest bid. Whatever the expansion fee was like $500 million. Now, $500 million isn't billions. Brent, I don't know where you found this in the old Jon and Jim rundown. All right, this is what he had to say. This is courtesy of CBS 8.
Well, let's talk about this after we win this game. Okay.
All right, so let's talk about this after we win this game, is what he had to say, which is interesting. I mean, he wasn't like, no, I'm not interested in the San Diego.
Right, you could easily shut that down.
Yeah. Now, again, he's an Egyptian-born billionaire now that owns SDFC, and you could be a billionaire. That doesn't mean you necessarily are going to post $3 billion for the Padres. And I would think there's a difference between a $500 million SDFC franchise and a $3 billion Major League Baseball franchise. Yeah. You know, it's like one thing. You know, you might be like, there's a difference between a millionaire and like a whatever, it's like a 10 millionaire.
I love on House Hunters or Millionaire Listing LA when someone has $1 million and they're the worst kind of buyer because they think that they can afford everything. An infinity edge pool, everything like, you want.
Like Bud. And don't get me wrong, I think a lot of us would love to have $1 million. Of
course.
But you're right, like $1 million today in Southern California
doesn't buy you what it used to.
It was $1 million 25 years ago. And there's a big difference. You're right between, looking for a home, everything changed. You could be a millionaire and be very comfortable in your life, but I feel like it's a different type of lifestyle if you've got $10 million, for example, in the bank. So I don't know if Mohamed Mansour is someone that has billions to play with or hundreds of millions to play with. Again, we're all enviable of either, but I just don't know if he has that type of funding around him or not.
It's the old Chris Rock bit about Shaq is rich, but the guy that signs Shaq's checks is wealthy.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, like there is a difference. Now, on its face, with the success they've had in this first, 18-month honeymoon, very successful franchise. Now, Major League Soccer is not Major League Baseball. They're different. It's the
transfer
the
fees,
revenues, the the dollar pool on players, I don't even know what it is, obviously.
But you're going and signing kids who are like 16 who are potential, kind of like baseball, I guess.
Payroll would compare. I mean, obviously the payrolls are different. Obviously the MLS payroll of SDFC is drastically different than the payroll of a Major League Baseball team like the San Diego Padres, but he's proven he can put a winner on a field. It's just another name that, again, there's been a couple of English Premier League owners that have apparently expressed
the guy who owns Chelsea
interest. Yeah, one of them, it has the San Diego background. Was it Friedkin?
Yeah.
Then there's obviously Joe Lacob, who has been a successful owner in the Bay Area.
The Warriors.
The Golden State Warriors. And now the possibility of a group led by Mohamed Mansour. I mean, it's at least interesting. And I would say just like when you're selling or buying a home, when you're selling, you want multiple bids. When you're buying, you don't. And the Padres are selling, and it sounds like there's at least multiple interested parties, and I think that's probably encouraging.
The Padres are a unique situation coming up available because most teams that become available, whether it's just for school of thought, the Miami Marlins, the A's, teams like that when you're buying that, you have to instill a fan base again. You got to do massive changes to the ballpark, physical changes, and then you're worried about the team. The Padres are a unique spot because you have a gorgeous stadium built downtown. You have a perennial winner, not the World Series level, but a perennial team that's challenging for the postseason, has been relevant in the picture, in the Major League Baseball picture in the NL for the last 6-7 years. And you feel like how many times in sports does a team that has a rabid fan base, has stars, marketable stars on their team, and Fernando Tatis, Manny Machado, and Jackson Merrill become available? Because the A's is like an entire rebuild. That's we are, just for example, building this franchise from scratch again. The Padres aren't really that. So it's a unique situation to buy, which I get from all the interest.
Like, I don't want the A's.
No.
Honestly, why would someone now? Is there a reason to buy him now? Getting a new ballpark and moving to Las Vegas? Sure. You could say, hey, completely new chapter. Everything that's happened previously, forget about that. I'm going to invest differently. I'm going to make this team relevant. And it's probably possible. But like if the A's were still, in Oakland, in the Coliseum, downtrodden with that roster and their lack of winning.
No one's going to the games.
Maybe you're buying on the cheap just because it's just like an asset. It's almost like a tax, but to save money on taxes or something for some billionaire. But you're right. I mean, it's not every day a team like the Padres becomes available in professional sports. Right. That's what I would say. Now there's other examples of, the Seattle Seahawks just won the Super Bowl.
They're available.
But they're also going to go for $8, $10, $12 billion, I would guess, because they're an NFL franchise.
Easy.
Where the Padres aren't. They're going to go for probably between $2 and $3 billion. There's probably money to be made. Their revenues are in the $500 million range per year, according to Sportico. You hold on to them for another decade. You win at a high level. $2 billion turns into $4 billion. 3 turns into 6. I
also know we're up against it, but the Padres are not the Lakers. They're not in terms of branding, but the Lakers sold for a record $10 billion.
10, right? Yeah.
And people, for the Lakers, one of the most iconic brands in sports, didn't think they were going to get that number. So you talk about supply and demand. If Friedkin, Lacob, Mansour, if everyone's in on this thing, that's only going to drive the price up. And the guy or the woman who ends up getting it, that means that they're going to be seriously invested in putting a winning product out on the field.
Yeah, I completely agree. Would you want Mohamed Mansour, the owner of SDFC, as the next owner of the Padres? 70470, start it with the word team, or 877-767-4760. We can talk to Darren Smith about that. He'll be with us here live at 3 p.m. on San Diego Sports 760. More on that story, the latest from Peoria, where the Padres and the Angels are playing this afternoon, as we continue on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by Mitsubishi Electric. Right now, the Padres are playing the Angels in spring training action, and we are currently in the bottom of the 7th. It is 7-3 Padres over the Angels. Tonight, the Aztecs are home at Viejas Arena to take on Utah State. Our pregame coverage will begin a little after 7 o'clock, and John will have the tip after 8 o'clock. Temps are rising. Is your home ready for summer? Mitsubishi Electric heat pump systems eliminate hot spots with precise comfort control in every room. Upgrade your comfort and see if you qualify for rebates or special financing offers at MitsubishiComfort.com.
All right, San Diego Sports 760. So the Padres have a player. I don't know anything about him. Romeo Sanabria is his name. I think that's I don't know.
Yeah, this dude's killing it in spring training.
All this guy does is hit. Now, every spring that's going to happen.
Is he the Gavin Sheets of this year?
I don't think so, because last year in the Texas League with AA San Antonio, he hit 257 with a 685 OPS for the Padres. He's 23, former 18th rounder. But that's the beauty of spring training. Like, there's always going to be someone. If you're an Angels fan, I bet there's some dude that's 7 for his first 13. Mm-hmm. If you're a Padres fan, there's Romeo Sanabria, a first baseman, by the way, that all he does is hit in his first week of spring training. And here's the thing. Someone like this, because it's the WBC, because he's gotten off to a good start, they're going to keep him in camp all spring long. He's going to play every single day in March. Because, like, if you hit 480, who knows? I mean,
do you think teams don't kind of cast off spring training starts too much? Do you think they should get guys who have good spring training should get more looks?
They do. You know what's funny? In today's baseball, a lot of guys that have good springs are giving themselves a shot. Now, depending, not a 18-year-old catcher. Right. You're not making a big league roster. Could you potentially make a roster out of spring training one level up? Like, hey, we had him ticketed for, A-ball, but he's going to start the year in AA or high A, advanced A, like something like that, I think is possible. But typically every spring, like, there's someone that's fighting for a job. It's like, if Ty France doesn't have a good spring, or if he does have a good spring, that could be contingent on whether he makes the team or not. I mean, I look at the Padres. What I like about the Padres is they don't have a ton of competitions that are playing out, which I think is usually a good thing. Like, you don't want like 4 Rule 5 guys on your team. You want to know who you are. Yes, you can have the 5th spot in the rotation up for grabs. Yes, you can have your last bench spot up for grabs, of course.
Or their closer's not up for grabs, where you're seeing these guys throw their arms out trying to earn the spot.
7 of their relievers are set right now. I think it's a good thing. 4 of their starters are set. That's 11 jobs right there. Probably 7 or 8 of their spots in their lineup are set. 2 or 3 of their bench spots are set. And then there's only like 3 jobs. There's a bullpen spot, there's a rotation spot, and there's a bench spot. There's basically 3 jobs, and I'm making that up, but roughly 3 jobs, 3.5 jobs up for grabs this spring, which honestly is much preferred to like some team that's like, we don't know. Like, every job's a competition. You can't have every position be a competition.
Right. In the NFL draft, when the team's making 11 picks, and it's usually the Jets, it's usually the Cardinals, because they have that many roster spots open, where you see the elite teams go, I want that guy. I'm trading up to get him.
Yeah, and great point. When you draft 12 and you try to have them all stick on your opening day roster for a football team out of 53, you have problems.
Massive issues.
You can't have 12 players that were in college football last year be on your 53-man roster and have any chance of success, would be my guess. Now, it's critically important to draft well. Yeah. And the teams that have proven to be successful over the long run are drafting well in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th round.
Right. It's easy to select in the first round. You and I can select in the first round.
By and large, and you don't want to miss there. That's where you're really going to take a step back potentially. Like, there's, when you're the New York Jets and you're drafting Christian Hackenberg, I'm aging myself, but in the first round,
he was supposed to be the savior.
You're killing yourself. I mean, there's so many impact players available in the top 20 or 30 picks. If you're the Jets, it's even earlier than that potentially. You have to make sure your first round pick hits. But I think what the true difference maker for a lot of franchises is, who are you drafting in the 3rd round and the 4th round?
Right, because you get to the first round, everyone getting picked has elite level production at big time colleges and has the size and strength to be an NFL player. When you get to day 3, you're talking about this guy has the tools but didn't have the production, or vice versa. You have a guy who had all the production but maybe he's small, maybe he doesn't run as good of a 40, and applying that spring training. I mean, you do see right the Marlins who have half their jobs open in the A's and stuff. Listen, it makes for a fun spring training, I guess, if you're a fan of that team, but that's probably a concern. There's a reason why the teams that have a gazillion open roster spots in the NFL, in the NBA, and in Major League Baseball are usually picking towards the top of the draft every year.
Well, that's why I've always been like, I never liked the narrative. Like when the Padres weren't good, mid 2010s, right? And people are like, well, I got the number one system, or wait till you see who's in AA. I'm like, who cares?
Exactly.
I mean, are you in the business of having, like, there's no banners for the number one farm system.
No one cares.
There's banners for, World Series appearances or division titles, or will we one day live in a world where the Padres actually win a World Series? There's banners for that too. Right now the Padres, by a number of scouting services, have the 30th best, farm system in baseball, AKA the worst. I don't care if they win. Now, if you're not winning and your system isn't fruitful, then you got problems. Like if you're mired in a 79 win year and you got no help from down below and you have no money to spend, well, you're screwed. Hopefully that's not the case with the San Diego Padres. I much prefer 90 wins with the 30th best system to 79 wins with the 5th best system.
100%. Look at the Red Sox last year. Right. The Red Sox had 3 of the top prospects in all of baseball, headlined by Roman Anthony, and they brought all of them up. So yeah, their farm system is taking a little bit of a tumble. They're not number one anymore like they were, but it's equating to on-field production, which is why a lot of people are high on the Red Sox going into this season. I'm totally with you. I mean, hey, it's fun to sell to the diehard fans. Hey, the farm system is great. Wait a couple of years, it's gonna be excellent. But would you rather have a team that's fighting year in and year out than just keep pushing it down the line? I mean, like not to keep going to other sports, but the Philadelphia 76ers are the kings of this. They trust the process. Yep. We're gonna have 3 more years of top picks, and we're losing, and ticket prices are just tanking left and right. And I guess now it's kind of working, but there's a lot of years there where it was insufferable to watch Philadelphia 76er basketball.
And then you have to know that draft is going to have Victor Wembanyama, and guess what? Markelle Fultz wasn't.
Lonzo Ball wasn't.
Ben Simmons wasn't. So to go through that, we talked about this recently this week about the NFL. Like, hey, next year's NFL draft could produce a lot of high level quarterbacks. Well, it better if you're willing to give up an entire year to go get one. Like if you're going into 2026 as an NFL team, thinking about the 2027 draft, and if your strategy is to get a top 3 pick because of the quarterbacks that are available, you better have all the faith in the world that it's going to pan out.
Well, I think this year, next year should be, you got Dante Moore, Oregon, Lenore Sellers, South Carolina, Arch Manning, Texas, Mayava SC. But this year was supposed to be the year, if we all remember, because Arch was the surefire number 1 pick. Drew Aller was supposed to be the guy. Klubnik was supposed to be in the running for the Heisman. And look how that all turned out.
Yeah, exactly.
Mendoza's the number 1 pick, and Ty Simpson's going to go in the first round, and then it's a bunch of flyers on guys. So it is an interesting line to walk, whereas you want to set yourself up for picks in the future. But if you are just selling the house for one draft, if that draft doesn't come in, I mean, you're kind of screwed.
Here's the other thing that I always I despise this about baseball. People, and this is Jim. He's already going to be retweeting Leo DeVries highlights when he's in AA with the A's.
We were talking about that earlier.
He retweet oh, they traded away Leo DeVries. Yeah, but they got Mason Miller. You can't look back. By the way, the trade for Juan Soto with the Nationals were they literally gave up the farm. It had no impact on the Nationals to the point that they're already rebuilding again. The Mackenzie Gore is gone. CJ Abrams, the James Woods. What is it even? I'm not saying that it's not possible you get burned, but that's the nature of the business when you're making high-level trades.
When people reference the Juan Soto trade for the Padres, I think, yes, if you sit in a vacuum years later and go, damn, if the Padres had James Wood and CJ Abrams and Mackenzie Gore, you'd have a pretty stacked team that was one of the tops for World Series odds. But if that deal had come out, if it had come out that AJ Preller had the ability to trade for Juan Soto, and at the time, no one knew if James Wood, Abrams, Gore, any of them were going to be good, especially Wood. He really came on the scene after, and you didn't trade for him, the same gets played. I forget the prospect who got traded for Mookie Betts. The Dodgers sent their number 1 farm prospect.
Was that the catcher?
It was the catcher. I'm forgetting his name, and he did not play. He didn't even crack the roster for Boston. It's one of the most highway robbery trades.
Even in real time, that was a highway robbery trade, right?
In real time. Yeah. And then it looks even worse because the guy didn't even become a legit player for him. Yeah. So yeah, holding on to prospects, again, it looks bad back in revisionist history, but there's a lot of times where just because you have a number one farm system, to your point, that doesn't mean that you're the number one team in baseball 3 to 4 years later when they come up.
Yeah, who was that they traded for? I mean, this is easy to find. I'm just looking at an article right now. I forget. But even the day of that trade, people are like, what on earth is this trade? But that's how baseball trades work, by the way. It's superstars for prospects. You know, it's never superstar for superstar in baseball. Very rarely does it play out like that. It's typically superstar for prospects. Did you find it?
Jeter Downs.
Jeter Downs. Yeah, that's right.
Household name.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Speaking of trades, has the narrative shifted on one of the biggest trades in NBA history? We'll discuss on the other side. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, Darren Smith is going to join us on the phone coming up in about 15 minutes. calling SDFC games again this year. Friar Territory podcast with Marty Caswell, with Darren, by the way, has been good content here to start the season as well. So we'll catch up with Darren at 3 p.m. All right. So a year ago, the Luka trade is this seismic NBA altering deal, right? Everyone kind of remembers where they were. If you're a Laker fan, there's tons of them in San Diego County, obviously.
Coming back from an Aztec game.
Yeah, you remember. I mean, I remember it because Jim was away from his phone for 5 or 6 hours. It might have been his anniversary or Aaron's birthday. And he was like at a really nice dinner. And he'll do this every once in a while. He's either on his phone obsessively or away from it for 4 or 5 hours. And he was away from it all night. And he like turned his phone back on at like midnight Pacific. And like the NBA had shifted and changed.
Oh my God.
Right?
Yeah.
All the discourse. What are the Mavericks doing? The Lakers are going to win 10 titles. Whatever the opinion was, it was seen as this seismic, franchise altering, NBA altering trade deadline. And it is. And it still was, obviously. But now, you're a year later, Luka, lightweight Luka, right? He loses all the weight. It's going to be this transcendent year. It really hasn't been. They're struggling right now. They have this botch play last night against Orlando.
Yeah, he passes up the 3-point shot, and the Magic come back down 12 and beat him.
Yeah, and so they lose last night by 1 to Orlando. And listen, it's not like Luka's career is over. He's still in his 20s. But man, there's a lot of work to do from a Laker perspective. This is the Lakers. And I remember saying this in real time, that everyone was so convinced that Luka was going to win at such a high level in LA the day the trade was made. And maybe he will post LeBron as money gets freed up. But I don't think it's a guarantee. You look around the Western Conference, Oklahoma City, San Antonio, Denver, name others. Listen, do I think the Lakers will have chances with Luka to get to NBA Finals and win them? Yes. But do I think it's a 2-foot putt that he's winning a title in LA? Honestly, I don't. Truthfully, I think they'll have opportunities. We'll see if they take advantage of them. And in the extreme short term, like, are the Lakers going to be the favorite to get to the NBA Finals next year? How could you say that right now?
The criticism is fair. Now, I'm a massive Laker fan. Yeah. I'll get that off the top, but it's fair.
Like a lot of San Diegans.
The fit has not worked out, not with Luka, but with LeBron, Luka, and Reeves. And the one thing I would say is the Lakers were heading for years of being one of the worst teams in the league. I think people forget this before the Luka deal.
Yep.
With LeBron's age, Anthony Davis was not a player that people were going to come play for because of his age, because of his injury history, and honestly, him not showing up in the biggest moments. The Lakers were in for a 5 years of being at the top of the draft, trying to draft lottery picks. You get a lottery ticket dropped in your lap, and Luka Doncic, no one thought could happen. But the team is still built around LeBron and AD in a way. The team is not made for Luka Doncic. The team for Luka to win, when he won with Dallas, when he went to the Western Conference Finals with Jalen Brunson, and then when he went to the NBA Finals with Kyrie Irving, it was a team made of your PJ Washingtons, your 3-and-D players, elite size and athleticism on the wing. Plus, they had countless centers. Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, they drafted out of Duke. So it was a team to win with Luka Doncic, because he has defensive liabilities, and it's a problem. He doesn't run back on defense a lot of complaining from him and LeBron to the refs. And the Lakers defense, just frankly, this is why they're not going to get past the second round of the playoffs, because they don't play defense at a clip to where you're going to beat Houston, Oklahoma City, San Antonio, Denver, go down the list, maybe Minnesota too. But I would say that LeBron making a max level salary, and I know LeBron fans are going to come at me because people are second to say anything about LeBron. LeBron is still an amazing player, but what him and Luka are kind of carbon copies of each other. LeBron has been playing off ball. Luka, to be effective, needs the ball. LeBron, to be LeBron James, knowing that he's not a pure spot up shooter, needs the ball in his hands. So you have 3 guys in Austin Reeves, Luka Doncic, and LeBron James, who kind of need the ball. And ever since they've been back together, because they've only played 12 or 13 games this season so far, all on the floor, it's like it's Reeves' turn, then it's LeBron's turn, and then it's Luka's turn. So you see them go in dry spells. And DeAndre Ayton, he had a good game last night. There's a reason why Phoenix and Portland gave up on him.
Right.
He's not a franchise center, and the Lakers don't have role players, consistent production off the bench. So long-winded way of saying this, I think everything you're saying is fair. The criticism of Luka is fair. I think, though, I'm having more concerns with the Lakers supposed to have $60 million in cap space in the offseason. If they go out and get the 3-and-D players, if they go out and get the centers and front court depth, and the Lakers still aren't winning, then I'm concerned. Right now, this team is not constructed to beat a San Antonio or an Oklahoma City.
Let me phrase it this way. Not that the Mavericks' return will ever be looked at as something they should have gotten, but what if the Mavericks actually were right? That despite all the fanfare and buzz and affinity for this player, I mean, one of the most beloved players in Mavericks history, obviously, not Dirk, but yeah, to that level of modern Mavs basketball. What if they knew that they honestly could not win a title with him, despite the fact that they got to an NBA Finals, that they really believe with nobody knows more than the Dallas Mavericks in real time when they trade this player away than the Dallas Mavericks. Now, sometimes you can be too close to something. We talked about this yesterday. It's like you look yourself in the mirror, you don't know you've gained weight. You have no clue. You have to get on a scale. So sometimes you almost, maybe too much information can hinder you. It's like in baseball when you get a second life, you get released by an organization. Luis Campusano, if he doesn't pan out in San Diego, he's still in his 20s. He could go to Cincinnati and be a 300. I mean, it would be crazy, but it happens all the time. Guys hit when given second opportunities. But I do wonder with someone like Luka, nobody's saying he's not all NBA caliber.
No, I see what you're saying, 100%.
But there's only one champion at the end of the year. And is he a caliber or a tick below that from a team perspective to get you there?
I think if you're critical of Luka, I think the fair assessment is in a league where Anthony Edwards plays two ways. You got to give for all
Sure
Anthony
does.
Edwards. He's an excellent offensive player, and he could be an all NBA first team defensive player. Luka Doncic, because of maybe it's effort, maybe it's because certainly when he was waited a little bit more early in his career, he's been, to be fair to him, his steals per game has been up this year, but still not an elite defender. To your point, you have to build a certain kind of team to win around Luka. You have to get shooters, you have to get wing defenders, and you have to get a lot of front court depth. If you don't have that, you can see where Shea and Anthony Edwards and guys can expose the Lakers backcourt time and time again. So I hear that, but if you're the Mavs, now I know they ended up getting Cooper Flag because they ended up, Kyrie got hurt and Anthony Davis got hurt. They kind of dumb lucked into it. And but if you had Luka and Cooper Flag on your team, which is something that could have happened if they would have just shut Luka down. I mean, you're talking about a team that might be winning an NBA championship this year.
100%. Like here's what I'm thinking right now though with Luka. And I don't know if this is fair or not. Again, it's not fair to make, we're paid to offer opinions, but you can't make a definitive statement on a 27-year-old. He could win 6 titles or he could win none. There's a big difference, right? But like everyone falls in love with offense. This is the same in the NFL.
Very true.
This is chicks dig the long ball. You know what I mean? Like this is, everyone likes offense. And like Kawhi Leonard has been a brilliant offensive player at times in his career, but guess what? Kawhi Leonard, the reason he's got 2 rings is yes, because of his offense, but also because of his unbelievable defense.
He took LeBron in the series with the Spurs.
He's been a lockdown defender. If you ever just Google like Kawhi Leonard 2016 defensive clips, like
unbelievable,
or find it on Twitter. There's like 3 minutes where it's every steal and block and rebound. And is it the sexiest thing in the world? No, although Kawhi is very well known for it and well, again, remembered fondly because of it as well, both San Antonio and Toronto. Again, he's never going to be remembered as the offensive player of Luka Doncic because, well, Luka's been a better offensive player. He's one of the best offensive players in the history of the sport. Now, Kawhi is an unbelievable two-way player, but it's like, I'm not comparing Kawhi to Luka. They're different sizes. They play different positions. But at the end of the day, it's like sometimes we get enamored with like the offensive skills. It's like, what does it take to win?
And to your point, I think we're going to see over the next couple of years, your Luka's the best of these players, but Luka's, Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson, a lot of guys who are up there offensively with anyone in the league.
Yep.
Are they going to be able to crack through over the Jalen Browns, the Anthony Edwards, the guys that play both ways? That's what's going to be fun the next couple NBA seasons to see if it really is an offensive league, or at the end of the day, does defense win championships?
All right, Darren Smith on the other side. SDFC season is underway. He is on the call this season. Darren Smith with his thoughts on the Padres spring training and also on SDFC on the other side. Sammy, appreciate you hanging out.
You guys are the best. Thank you for letting me rant on the Lakers.
Long. with us here on San Diego Sports 760 as always. All right, Darren Smith coming up on the other side. Ben Fadden talking Friars in studio later in the hour on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by Wellness Unmasked with Dr. Nicole Sapphire. The Padres played the Angels today in spring training action. They won 7-3. The Aztecs are back home tonight at Viejas Arena to take on Utah State. Our pregame coverage will begin a little after 7, and John will have the tip after 8 o'clock.
Medical headlines, they're everywhere. But what do they really mean? Join me on Wellness Unmasked for a deeper look, plus the latest from the Maha movement. Listen to Wellness Unmasked with Dr. Nicole Sapphire on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, back with you here. San Diego Sports 760. Always great to connect with Darren Smith. Back in the call this year with Adrian Garcia Marquez for SDFC, off to a roaring start. You can also catch Darren now on Friar Territory. He's been doing that with Padres baseball essentially underway this spring. I caught your recent episode on Section 1904 as well, Darren. So first of all, man, thanks for hopping on. Hope all is well.
Big game tonight, John.
Huge.
Massive game.
Huge. Are you going?
Massive.
You should go.
No, I mean, we're talking about St. John's and UConn, right?
Oh yeah. Okay, wait. When is that? When is that? That's tonight?
That's at 4 o'clock today.
Yeah,
gosh. 4 o'clock today. Yes. No, there's two massive basketball games. Yes. At 4 o'clock, I'm going to tune in and watch St. John's and UConn. And then, of course, just past 8 o'clock, I'll stay up late, put a cup of coffee in my Boca, and then stay up and watch Utah State and San Diego State. So pretty good night of hoops ahead.
There is. All right. I want to ask you about a million topics. I want to get to the Aztecs. I want to get to the Padres. I want to start with the SDFC. I mean, how do you build it? Like last year was so incredible. You're like, well, are they going to be able to get to that level again? Can they reach that level of expectation in year two? And then they start the way they started against Montreal this past weekend. How encouraging is a start like that coming off the success of last year?
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, obviously there's no such thing as flawless performance, but, I don't know how it could have gone much better. Even, bringing in CONCACAF Champions Cup into the mix, right? You're playing an in-form Pumas team, which was pretty good. It was performing at a pretty high level. Now, how good they actually are is debatable, but they were in form. They were a quarter of their way into the regular season. And SDFC had but 3 weeks of camp. They had no time. They had no on-ramp into that tournament. So to see what they've done, they've scored 9 goals in their 3 matches, and they've been from 9 different goal scorers. And Anders Dreyer, an MVP finalist, hasn't scored one of them, right? Like, that's kind of a crazy thing to think about how good and how balanced this team could be. So, yeah, I mean, I kind of came into it thinking, I hope we don't all fall into the trap of thinking that they're in competition with themselves, right, from a year ago, and how good they were, this record-setting pace, this unprecedented success when it came to wins and points. But I'm not so sure that they aren't challenging themselves to be a better version of what we saw in 2025. So it's been an incredible start for them, and hopefully continue Sunday night.
It's interesting because, you'll be on the call this upcoming weekend, St. Louis City, back here in San Diego. You can hear that match right here on San Diego Sports 760. But like in talking about expectations, like sometimes that can be hard. I go back to the 2023 Padres, crazy expectations that they're coming off an NLCS, or San Diego State basketball this year, really high expectations, now trying to fight their way into the NCAA tournament. Like sometimes we say, like, what are really expectations? What impact does that really have on a team? But I feel like that is like, there's a weight there that can potentially impact a team. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's fair. I remember Steve Fisher. I actually brought this up with Mike Ivatis last week. Mm-hmm. And I remember Steve Fisher, the year that San Diego State broke through in the NCAA tournament and made it to the Sweet 16. I do remember Steve Fisher saying, in some ways, it's really important for us to get back next year, for us to show everybody that this wasn't just one time that we won a couple of games in the NCAA tournament. Sometimes the year after success is, that level of pressure, right? And, you factor in some of the other stuff with SDFC, like the decision not to have Chucky Lozano be part of your future, right? Like that's put a lot of people kind of questioning some of the decision-making here. So, I do think that, all that is fair. And again, like I sort of was reluctant to start expecting, that we would see what it was. But, they built such a great foundation last year. And I think, what they're doing now is just sort of refining some of the stuff that made them successful and maybe getting a little bit of health, right? Like I thought it was really important that Marcus Ingvartson contributed the way he did in game number 1. He had a goal, he had an assist, he was a key figure in the second goal. That's really important for them, because he had mostly a lost season last year, only played 8 games. So, yeah, I mean, I think that they accept it. I think that they you see these videos with Mikey in the locker room post game, and like that's who he is. He challenges these guys. He's all about competition. Like they compete so hard on the practice field, on the training ground. And, I think that's just how they have to be wired in order, if you're going to play here, this is the way that you're going to have to function. So I think it's, it's not so much about us. I think it's the internal expectation and their own level of competition that is what we've seen so far out of the gates, which has been so strong.
Darren Smith with us right now in San Diego Sports 760. I remember asking you last year with all the success, it's kind of like with NIL and college sports, like, well, we have a really good team, but can we keep the team together? But it's like, well, let's enjoy how it's playing out right now. We'll worry about tomorrow. But there was a lot of conversation. I just was curious. Can you keep your GM? Can you keep your head coach? And they've locked both of these pieces up in Tyler Heaps and Mikey Varis, which I think is a credit to the organization coming off the successes they've enjoyed in this first year. How impactful is that going to be for this franchise moving forward? The fact that both of those critical pieces are going to be here in the short term and hopefully the medium term as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think it's massive to get both those guys. And it's also an endorsement, right, of them, of how they've approached everything from top to tail since, the project was launched before they even had a roster and put the ball on the ground at Snapdragon Stadium. So, it is an endorsement of them, their approach, and getting a chance to know them a little bit. And I talked to Tyler yesterday, like they're, they love San Diego. Like they've really fallen in love with the place. And they also really, they love San Diego Football Club, but they also like being associated with Right to Dream, right? They like being part of, this operation that's connecting this soccer club in San Diego to the club in Denmark, to the club in Egypt, to the club in Ghana. So, it's here, like this is what they primarily focus on, obviously, but it's the bigger picture that these guys really love being a part of. And, I think that they both, have really fallen for the city. I mean, you and I can relate to that. Yep. I talked a little bit about it with Tyler, like from my own personal experience. San Diego is a place that honestly, I didn't think I would spend, 23 going on 24 years now when I first got here. I thought it was maybe a stop along the way. And, now here I am all these years later. And I think that those guys are experiencing that as well. I think they realize how special the place is, not just because it's lifestyle and it's convenient and the weather's nice, right? And you got all these blizzards we're gymless, but because like they really just, love being here and they've been so embraced by the region. So I think it's great. I mean, it's massive that these guys get locked down. I'm glad to know that they're not going to be, off for other gigs here just based on a little bit of success. It was a concern. Sometimes European clubs come a-calling or bigger clubs in other parts of the world come a-calling. And like, I do think if these guys want those opportunities, they're going to present themselves. One is 34 years old. The other one's 42 or 43 years old. So they'll have plenty of time, but I love the fact that they're locked down here for the short term. I think it's good for all of us.
By the way, keep Jim away from sharp objects. Like, I think he's gone from like,
miserable.
Right. At first he's like, oh, snow, it's cute. And then like all it does is snow. And he's like, I think he's not doing well. It's February. He's never experienced anything like this in his life.
No, he sent me a screenshot of like the Doppler weather and it just said FML, which we all know what that means.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Hilarious.
Brutal.
It really, I mean, we've experienced it, you and I growing up out there. Okay, I know you were talking about this on Friar Territory. We've talked about it on San Diego Sports 760. I don't know if there's like a right or wrong answer. This Fernando Tatis Jr., where do you hit in the lineup debate? Because he's hit a lot as a leadoff hitter in his career. He's been really good as a leadoff hitter historically. Then there's this idea, well, maybe about him lower in the order because you get more power out of him. I was on board with that. I don't know if it automatically is going to make him better, but how do you see it? What are the pros and cons of batting Tatis where he batted last year as a leadoff hitter, as opposed to potentially moving him down in the lineup?
Well, I don't know. Who is he? I mean, are we talking about Fernando Tatis from 2019 to 2021, or are we talking about Fernando Tatis from 2023, 24, and 25? Right? Like those are two different players. They're both good players, but they're different players. One guy, hit 81 home runs in 3 seasons and not even full seasons, right?
That's right.
And, the other guys hit 71 home runs over 3 years. So, it's tricky. I mean, my whole point is I understand the conversation about wanting to, if you believe in protection in the batting order, like I understand it. Like
Sure.
I understand how it's being explained and why people think it's a good idea. But I just have not been convinced to the point where you're telling me he shouldn't be in the top three. That, you should not have more at bats for Fernando Tatis Jr., who was your best offensive player, right? So no matter how you want to, you can say, well, what does best mean? I don't know if you go by wins above replacement. I do, and he was your best offensive player. And I want that guy to get as many at bats as possible. I don't want him to have less at bats. And mathematically, if you're batting fourth, you're just getting less at bats than if you're batting first. So, like, I understand that, you want to put him behind Manny and you want him to hit with runners on base. And he seems to want to do that, right? Like, that's the other thing.
Right.
Where did that come from? This idea that Craig Stammen said he didn't think he was good, that Fernando didn't think he was good at batting leadoff. And Fernando then himself was like, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Where did all that come from? Like, nobody talked about that last year at all. Right. So I want that guy to get as many at bats as possible. I haven't yet been convinced. I haven't heard a compelling enough argument yet that he should be batting fourth in this lineup.
Fair, completely fair. I will not argue that. I could be convinced of anything. If Tatis is better as a leadoff hitter, put him leadoff. If he's better as like a 2-hole hitter, you know what I mean? It's like, and It's also kind of chicken egg. Like, by moving him, are you really making him a better player, to your point? And what version of Fernando Tatis Jr. are we getting? I want to ask you in general. This is, I guess I'll phrase the San Diego State question. And I see more of it probably than most because I'm spending too much time on like the social media Aztec channels or the message board. But Darren, there's so much vitriol. Like, they lose 2 games and people are like, teams quit. One foot out the door. I'm like, really? I mean, they led Grand Canyon at the half 2 days ago. They were 12-2 in the league. Like, how do you deal with it? Like, listen, there'll be a time in the history of the SDFC franchise where it's not going to go perfectly. They'll have a 3-game losing streak. And what are people then? But I look at the track record. I look at Brian Dutcher. I look at Steve Fisher. And yes, have they reached expectations as of yet this year? I think it's fair to say no. They had really high expectations. But is it fair to say all the things that people are saying because they've lost 2 straight games?
I mean, I don't think so. I think they deserve benefit of the doubt based on what they've done. Sometimes it just doesn't work. It's basketball, and guys have been injured and they've been in and out, and not everything is some indictment on the program or on the coaching or on the players. I mean, sometimes it's just not there, it's just like there's no chemistry, especially when some of your better players have been in and out. So, yeah, I mean, it's disappointing for sure. They still have time to turn this into a successful season, don't they? So, I wouldn't be pulling the plug just yet. Backs up against it clearly. But what will go a long way in fans' minds is a win tonight. Yeah. Like, you win this game tonight and you're on the air tomorrow and you're talking about San Diego State being on top of the Mountain West Conference standing. So winning cures a lot of things. And I think we all know that. But yeah, like, I don't know. When I watch it, it just feels like something isn't firing. That's not firing on every cylinder. And again, maybe some of that is circumstantial based on some of the guys that have been in and out of the lineup. But yeah, I don't know that I see anybody quitting. I don't think they would stand for that. I mean, I just don't. The program doesn't stand for that. They would not allow that sort of stuff to happen. You're just not going to be one of those guys. Brian Dutcher and Dave Velasquez, they're not going to allow that. So, I mean, I don't buy it. I think they're trying. It just hasn't come together like a lot of people thought. And that's just life. It's just sports. It just kind of happens sometimes. It's not an indictment of the program because we've seen how successful they've been over the years. It's just trying to figure out what that right combination is. And it's just taken way longer than any of us would have imagined.
Yeah, I think that's good perspective and better than, again, I get it. It's social media. People, say whatever they want. It's, you take it with lots of grains of salt, obviously.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's like we said earlier, going back to SDFC, it's like, when the Chucky Lozano news started popping, it's like, oh, they're making a massive mistake. Yep. Well, they won 4-0. Well, they're not starting him again. They win 2-1. Oh, I can't believe they're not, Yep. Then they get through the first round. Well, they've got to start him now. And then they get through Minnesota, and eventually they lost the game. It's like, see?
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
You know, it's like,
100%.
okay, like I get it. So over a long enough timeline, you can pretty much make any prediction true. But, you know, I think these guys have earned enough credibility in the sport and in the city that, you know, if it's not clicking, you know, it's probably not because they've changed or they're doing something philosophically wrong. It's just sometimes it doesn't happen. It doesn't click.
Agreed. Darren, real quick before you go, for our listeners, where can they find you right now? I mentioned Friar Territory. You're calling SDFC games right here on San Diego Sports 760. You're still active right now at Section 1904. What do you want our listeners to know about what you're doing right now?
Yeah, I'm all over the place. I don't even know where I am half of the time.
I hear you.
I don't know. I mean, it's sort of, you know, the whole, we've had some changes, obviously, with the Section 1904 brand at the end of the year, but we're picking up the pieces there. So, Friar Territory, you know, 2-3 times a week, talking a little bit of Padres. We're doing some stuff with SDFC on the broadcasts. And if you follow along on social media, from time to time, we'll just be randomly pumping out podcasts. So be on the lookout for that.
D, appreciate you, man. Hope all is well, and we'll hear you this weekend calling SDFC right here on 760.
Big games tonight. Good luck, everybody.
Best of luck to your Johnnies tonight against Connecticut. All right. Connecticut, of all teams. Connecticut, UConn. All right. On the other side, special guest in studio. That's next on San Diego Sports 760. All right, San Diego Sports 760. Jim's nemesis is with us right now in studio. Ben Fadden, talking Friars, swinging by. He's going to hang out for the next hour or so. It's good to see you, Ben. How are you, man?
Good to see you. How you doing?
Now, here's the thing, as you know, because you watch the stream. The stream is just of me. But Ben is decked out in his Padres gear. He's got a Padres quarter zip. He's got a Padres fitted brown cap as well, which should come as no surprise with spring training underway. And you're pushing out the content right now. There's so many things we can talk about. First of all, how are you? Everything good?
Yeah,
I've been watching.
good.
You've been doing a ton of stuff online.
It's a busy time of year. Yeah,
it is.
Spring training, great time.
It is. It's funny because I felt like off season pretty slow. Ramp up to spring training, really active with the various signings, the German Marquezes of the world, Nick Castellanos, obviously. And now that we're in camp, like, what do you see as so far? Like, what's been the biggest storyline of the first week of Padres games?
I mean, the games, I don't think is a storyline. I mean, if we're talking about games, Castellanos, the couple games that he's played, first base, I think, he's out there before 8:00 in the morning and working with Ryan Goins, the infield coach there. So he definitely has the work ethic and he wants to help this team in any way that he can.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the bigger headline, though, is off the field. I mean, it was a weird thing. I was listening yesterday, Matt Waldron, and what Craig Stammen was talking about there with the rear end and
is that not
all that. Yeah.
Do you agree? I don't know.
Just say lower body, hockey it.
That has to be a rookie manager thing, right? There's no way Mike Schilt would have said that.
I mean, if he went to Matt Waldron and was like, hey, is this okay if I say this? And Matt was like, yeah, sure.
There's no way that yeah, there is no way. There's no way that happened. That, like, I would imagine Matt, he seriously woke up from the surgery and the doc was like, hey, everything went well. Like, anything I should know? No, other than the fact that Craig Stammen
just been announced to the world.
Hemorrhoid surgery.
Yeah.
And I feel like if this happened with like the Yankees or like the Dodgers, this would be some massive. At the end of the day, it's probably not the end of the world. But that, again, it's like they hold information so close to the vest sometimes as an organization that this is the one thing you need to like publicly get out there. It's Matt Waldron. This isn't Manny Machado. It's just like he's dealing with an infection. He's actually been in and out of the hospital. He's going to be a little bit behind.
All we need to know.
Nobody would have ever asked anything more of that. But it does bring up the interesting point of like, I think the storyline that has to do with spring training is who is their final starter.
Exactly.
If it's a 5-man rotation, and that happens. A lot of teams are dealing with who's going to be their fifth starter. It's happened with the Padres before. That to me is the story. I never thought Matt Waldron was a front runner. Clearly now he's not their number 5 starter.
The big thing there was he had no options left. So now, of course, you don't want the surgery part, but it could be a good thing because now that could force the Padres to have Buehler or have Marquez on or have Marco Gonzalez, a lefty, when it's a righty heavy rotation.
Right.
Try those guys out. If it works, great. If it doesn't, then you can try Matt Waldron when he's healthy. But now they can start him on the IL to start the season. He stays in the organization, and it just gives you another option, if that makes sense.
I want to get Ben Fadden, talking Friars, in studio here for the next hour with us. What is your reaction? And we can get to the phones as well. 877, not yet, in a minute, Brent. 877-767-4760 if you want to weigh in. What is your reaction when you see all these analytics that suggest the Padres are 80-win team? It may be higher. I mean, there's others, 82-win team, even an 84-win team. I'm not seeing as much that suggests 90 wins, 93 wins like 2024. I get it. It's a projection. They've been wrong before, and they will again. Well, how do you see that? I mean, they've replacing guys like Dylan Cease and Robert Suarez and others. How have they gone from a 90-win team to an 80-win team analytically?
Yeah, that's a weird one to me because you look at the bullpen and let's say Jason Adams is going to be there for most of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, they lost Robert Suarez, but I think what people forget is a lot of these moves already happened before the deadline. So we can talk about how not a lot of activity during the offseason, but Ramon Laureano, that's a big addition. He wasn't there on opening day. It was Jason Hayward.
That's right.
Like, Connor Joe.
Yep.
So they upgraded the catching position. They have Freddie Fermin there instead of what it was. In the rotation, you get Joe Musgrove back. We'll see what happens there. Michael King, bring him back. Nick Pivetta. This fifth guy, whether it be Walker Buehler, whoever, that could end up being a really good pitcher. And Randy Vasquez, seems like Darvish has taken him under his wing. And so this rotation could end up being better. The bullpen could be just as good. And I think they're better offensively than they were at the start of last season. So, yeah, I'm a little confused by that. But these projections, the good thing is the projections mean absolutely nothing.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it's got to be played on field. I agree with you. Let's sneak in a call right now from Jeff. I think he's got a comment for you, Ben.
Jeff.
Jeff, you're on San Diego Sports 760. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
All right, so I leave the show, and specifically when I left the show, I said, anybody but Ben Fadden. And what happens when I listen today? But Ben Fadden is on the air. What? This show stinks. What's going on here?
First of all, I didn't even know. I'm listening to you for like 20 seconds. Like, who is this?
No, I knew
who's this? I
immediately. I
leave
could
the
tell
show.
immediately.
Like, I don't
Yeah.
remember Jeff being on the show.
Who's Jeff?
Wait, first of all, you left like 4 months ago. You're in a blizzard and you're listening to this show.
I have nothing else better to do.
Don't you have snow to shovel?
Sounds like someone made the wrong decision.
Dude, this is your.
I'm
This
stuck
is
in my house.
yeah.
I have nothing to do. I'm surrounded by snow. I said, you know what? Let me turn on the show and see what John's talking about. And then I get a notification that Ben Fadden's joining the show.
Correct.
And I'm like, no. We made it clear that when I left the show, the Ben Fadden joining you part wasn't going to happen.
Dude,
Not clear enough,
first of all,
obviously.
okay. So hold on. We have Jim. Jim is with us right now on the show that he used to be on. And I have so many questions. I did you hear me? Did you hear Darren 20 minutes ago? Because we were
Yeah.
we
I
were
listened to the
ripping
whole thing. You guys were making fun of me for living in
Correct.
like Antarctica.
Yeah, we're like, I'm like, can you? I said, keep Jim away from sharp objects. Like,
Yeah,
what is
I know.
your mental?
I trust me.
What is your mental state like? Like, in all honesty, when it's 80 degrees here, everyone's hiking and jogging and biking. You got 20 inches of snow with more snow on the way. Like, are you mentally stable? Honest question.
No, I'm not. Like, I'm not well, bro. Like I am not doing well right now. This is the ultimate culture shock of culture shocks, going from perfect sunny San Diego the last 15 years of my life to it snowed like 5 times already here. We've accumulated almost 40 inches of snow this winter. It's been the coldest winter on the East Coast in the last 50 years. Bro, I'm unwell.
Do you have any advice for Jim, Ben?
No
Although
advice.
I don't know why
no.
he would take it from you.
Yeah. No. Well. Yeah. Exactly. No advice.
I
I mean,
mean-
you made this decision, so
I mean, Jim, do you want to talk more in a couple of minutes? Do you want to stay on the line? Do you want to just stay with us forever? What happened to him? He's just gone. That's the end of the show.
he was done.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll see if Jim's with us on the other side. This is kind of like crazy what's happening right now. All right, Ben Fadden in studio, Jim Russell somewhere in Philadelphia. This is San Diego Sports 760. By the way, we have Aztec tickets to give away for next week against UNLV. Stay with us on San Diego Sports 760.
This report is sponsored by Our American Stories. The Padres had spring training game today against Anaheim. They won 7-3. Tonight, the Aztecs are back home at Viejas Arena to take on Utah State. Our pregame coverage with Fletch will begin a little after 7, and John will have the tip after 8.
This is Lee Habib, host of Our American Stories. On our next episode, we'll peel back the mythology and legend of Christopher Columbus. You won't want to miss the next episode of Our American Stories.
All right, San Diego Sports 760. Again, the Aztecs back home tonight. They're taking on Utah State. Pre-game coverage at 7. I'll have the tip for you just after 8 on San Diego Sports 760. Obviously, a massive game. We'll get into it with Ben Fadden, talking Friars, but he talks some Aztecs as well. He's joining us in studio. We just heard from Jim on 760 for the first time since 2025, I think.
He said he was going to call back, but he might have slipped on some ice or something.
Yeah,
probably. Yeah, he's a mess right now. He's a mess. But
have
Jim,
you heard from him, by the way? Like, how is he dealing with snow? How's he dealing with?
I think terribly. Honestly, I think he's doing terribly. And I hate I told him moving there in the winter was an awful idea. He's calling back. Jeff is calling back. it's like in our phone system is Jeff. So, okay, we'll catch up with Jeff from Philly in a moment. But okay, so we have Jim back with us. I love how Ben Fadden comes to the studio, but let's just talk to Jim. Okay, so all right, so you're talking about this culture shock, right, Jim? Where you moved to Philadelphia. Yeah. Is it anything other than the weather? Like, let's say it was 60 every day. Would you be okay?
Yeah. Oh, dude, it was 60 every day. I'd be like in a tank top and shorts and living my best life.
Right. You'd be like at the beach.
Yeah, exactly. 60 degrees sounds like a godsend right now.
What about 78 and sunny?
Which is what it is right now.
You know what? Shut up.
All right. So, okay. Well, here's the thing. I told you
the weather.
Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how's the play?
Right. I mean, like, yeah, there's stuff to do here, but the weather's like impacting everything. If you haven't noticed, I mean, I can't go anywhere really. The shops are whatever, but there's nothing to do, and it's just like a bunch of snow. That's it.
You enjoying the Sixers or what?
Yeah, I'm starting my Sixers wrap-up channel next week. You should tune in.
All right, so I'm trying to think because the one advice, honestly, I gave Jim advice before he left. I'm like, moving to Philadelphia.
You didn't listen.
No, this is all you said. This is all you said. You said, don't.
I did say that. I said that. I actually said it, and I said doing it in the winter could be a really bad idea. And there's a number of factors as to why. Turning the clocks back in the East compared to the West, you cannot compare. There is nothing like it in the East. It is miserable. And then you couple that with the weather, and that's a dangerous combination. Even if you're if you're from the East, you just know it's part of life. But when you've spent your whole life in California, which is Jim, right? From Northern California, has spent half of his life in Southern California. To go there in the winter, now again, it's not like you moved to like Edmonton or Winnipeg. You would, no. I don't even know if you'd still be with us if you moved to Winnipeg.
Do you know where Winnipeg is, Jim?
I would not.
What country is Winnipeg in?
Somewhere.
It's in Mexico.
It's somewhere in the world. Yeah.
But I think here's the thing. I'm being honest with you, Jim. I'm going to cheer you up now. It's not like that. You'll be fine in March. The weather's going to warm up. The springs will be nice. Summer's hot as hell and humid as hell, and you're going to hate that. But I think ultimately you're going to be fine. There's only one winter per year, and it's only like 5 months.
You're a liar. The only things you've been texting me is like, bro, it's going to be bad weather for like the rest of eternity.
Dude, again, it's one thing. Moving from East to West is such a different experience. You know what I mean? Like, dude, think about it. Moving from East to West, you're like, how do you guys live here?
Just think about it when you're coming from East to West just on a flight and you're coming back home. And it's like,
oh, it's the best. You're like, oh, I'm coming home. Like I got to go back to school or work, but it's like, I'm San Diego. Jim, do you have?
No, I know. I moved to the East Coast and I happen to bring the worst winter in 50 years. I mean, I've talked to my neighbors and even they're like, it has not been this bad. Like they can't remember the last time it's been this bad. And every time I see one of my neighbors, he's like, giving me crap like, hey, you're the one that brought the bad weather. It's your fault. It's your fault. Because I'm the idiot with the California license plate still in my car. So, of course, they know I'm from California. But, like, yeah, it's not something that I expect every winter. Hopefully. Then we might have a problem here. But, look, I'm just chalking it up to incredibly bad luck at the worst time possible. That's just what I'm chalking it up to.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, I have a couple more questions,
Yeah.
and I want to get Jim's thoughts on the Padres, even though he's 3,000 miles away. Does Aaron think it's been a bad winter? Okay, so Aaron, obviously Jim's wife for our listeners. I don't know how you wouldn't know that, but does Aaron think, who's from the Philadelphia area, from Jersey, but the Philly area, does she think the weather's been bad?
Yes. There's not a single person that I've talked to that doesn't think the weather's god awful this winter. Like, some of our good friends who are from here and have lived here for the last 4 years are like, we've not seen this ever. Like, that this is just completely abnormal. Like, yeah, it snows and it's cold, but the fact that it snowed like 5 times and each time it's been up to my knees, like, nah, dude, nah, that's not normal, bro.
How long do you think? What's the over/under on when Jim moves back?
Let's see. He'll probably do, because he can't leave his house right now. So let's say, this winter, he'll do the summer, and then once it hits winter again, and he has to go shovel snow, I'm out.
All my friends. So, okay, Jim doesn't even know this. I have like a group chat with like my high school friends and some buddies from college, and my brother lives in Philadelphia. It is literally a point of daily conversation. We're like, wait, your co-host moved from San Diego to Philadelphia? And everyone's amazed by it. They're like, nobody's ever done that. They're like, why would he? They're like, I don't understand the situation to play it out. I'm like, well, Aaron's from Philly. They're like,
well, guess who did it? Me. I did it. I'm the only one.
You're the first,
I moved
man.
from California to the East Coast during the worst winter in 50 years. We had a blizzard yesterday. They were saying things on the news. They were like, yeah, we have a bomb cyclone coming through the area. Like, I read somewhere they were calling it the final boss of blizzards. I'm like, what is happening right now?
It's ridiculous.
The final boss of blizzards? Like, that doesn't sound good.
What do you think about Matt Waldron's hemorrhoids?
Great transition. Love it. Wait, he had a hemorrhoid?
You saw this story, seriously, or did you not? I'm being honest.
No, I did.
Okay.
I saw he had some butt stuff going on. And
Had
I
an
read,
infection in his rear end.
Craig Stammet said he had an infection in his rear end to the media.
And then it was found out that he had hemorrhoid.
Not just a hemorrhoid, he had
right?
hemorrhoid surgery. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, hemorrhoid surgery. Yeah, as somebody with some personal experience in that department before, I get it. But it's like, what else do you want me to say? Like, oh man, I can't believe they're going to miss Matt Waldron for a while. Like, okay, so what? If it was Joe Musgrove who had hemorrhoid surgery, or Nick Pivetta who had hemorrhoid surgery, or Michael King, then I would be like, this is a problem. But Matt Waldron, like, if that's the most exciting thing so far of spring training is Matt Waldron's hemorrhoid surgery, I guess that means it's a good spring training so far.
I would agree with that. I would agree.
What about his velocity, though?
What about his velocity? Is it up or down?
It's up.
Is it?
Ruben Niebla is raving about
somewhere.
it.
Yeah, it's up somewhere. I can tell you that.
Oh my gosh. All right. So tell us, when's the next time you're going to like go outside or do anything? Like go to Wawa?
Well, it's supposed to snow next Tuesday about 11 to 13 inches. So I'll probably go outside then to shovel my driveway once again.
Oh my gosh.
How many, can you order Wawa to your house?
You probably could, right?
Oh yeah. I let the Uber drivers, fend off the storm and drive through all the snow to get to my house. Yeah. The Wawa's down the street from me. I have eaten so much.
How many?
Wawa
How many have you had?
Steaks. Too many to count, Ben.
I mean, he sends me
it's
photos.
Been a little bit of problem.
He says in the group chat with Darnay, he sends photos of like cheesesteaks, which is amazing. I mean, it looks great. Now I'm a vegetarian from Philadelphia, which is an oxymoron.
I'm 400 pounds.
I was
That's just what I was going to ask you.
yeah. Have you weighed yourself recently?
No, all I wear is sweatpants and sweatshirts. So I have not. I don't weigh myself anymore,
dude.
It is what it is right now, bro. It is what it is.
Mix in a dumbbell or two,
man.
Dude. You're once it's like 59 out, you're gonna be living your best life. You're gonna go outside.
Well, here's the thing. So last Saturday was the first day that I could actually see like grass,
right?
Because the snow that happened last time in January finally all melted. I think it was like 58 degrees outside.
Oh.
It felt like perfect weather. Like me and Aaron, we went outside. We went to go get lunch. Like it was fantastic. And then the next day, a freaking blizzard hit. And so it's felt like we've gone back in time 3 weeks. And the last month, there has been just snow just everywhere. And I've only experienced one day where it was like nice. That's it.
Well,
so yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that first day after all this crap where it's like 60 degrees. Oh, it's going to be the greatest day ever.
Wait until you find out there's things called like thunderstorms in the sun, and there's lightning and there's humidity and there's there's bugs, by the way. Wait until you find out about the bugs. There's no bugs here.
Bro.
By the way, don't get Lyme disease. There's deer everywhere.
we have like 30 deer that are always by our house.
That's what I'm saying,
I'll probably get Lyme disease too.
And make sure Bentley doesn't get it because then Bentley's transporting it to you. Other than that, it sounds
great.
like things are
Even
good.
better. Awesome.
It sounds like things are good.
Other than that, everything's great. Lyme disease and deer and bugs and humidity and snow. This is great.
All right, give Erin our best to her from out here in San Diego.
I'll give her your best for sure. Yeah.
All right, man. Good catching up. Thanks for calling in. Thanks for listening on your off day.
Yeah. Bye.
The John and Ben Show.
Man, don't get him started. All right, Jim Russell joining us live from, I don't even know, blizzard conditions in Philadelphia. We'll continue with Ben Fadden. On the other side, we've got Aztec basketball tickets to give away for next Friday night against UNLV. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, San Diego Sports 760. We've had quite the first couple of hours. We've talked to Darren Smith and Jim Russell called in, a.k.a. Jeff in Philly.
Jeff.
And we've got Ben Fadden talking Friars in studio with us for another 30 minutes or so. We can go anywhere right now. We have Aztec tickets to give away for next Friday night against UNLV. Let's talk Aztecs.
Yeah.
Because I know as a San Diegan, as someone that's covered them as well, with your YouTube channel, it has, I mean, I think to be completely fair, obviously it's been up and down, crazy high expectations heading into the year. Now they've lost 2 straight. They could very well be on the outside looking in from an at-large perspective as we sit here right now. And they've got this massive game against Utah State here tonight. How have you viewed it as a fan, as someone that's been watching? How have you watched this play out this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's been disappointing, but I totally heard you earlier on when kind of like, man, the fan reaction, it's been a little bit much. Because you look at it and they win today, they're at the top of the Mountain West. And they could go win the regular season Mountain West. And I'm not saying that's an automatic bid. Like they're the first 4 out right now, I think, on Joe Lunardi with USC and Cal and other teams like that. But so it's been a disappointment. But if they start playing better, and then we've seen them before go win the Mountain West tournament, like that's doable. I just think Miles Bird's going to have to be better. And Reese Dixon Waters is going to have to be better. Like you look at those 2 guys, when they have lost to Grand Canyon, these recent losses, they just have to shoot better. I think it was it Reese? He went 2 for 10 the other night in one of the losses. I'm blanking on what team it was.
I don't know if it was maybe the GCU game.
Yeah.
They struggled in general from the floor in that game.
And I think we need to say, like people say, oh, they lost to GCU. Well, at GCU is a very tough environment to be in. So I think we got to put it that way. But no, like I don't want to make excuses for them. It's been a rough season. But that's the high standard that this program has built. So that's it's a good thing for us to be disappointed with the season that they're at. But there's still time to turn it around. But like Dutch said recently, they're just not playing the best basketball right now. So that's the tough part about, like Utah State. They just had a game where like they're right there, right? San Diego State now can be right there with them because Utah State, they didn't have was it the Nevada?
They lost to Nevada in Reno. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're in it. And like Dutch said, it's their own destiny. They can control it now.
Yeah, I mean, basketball is one of these, I listen, we all get high expectations. I talked about it with Darren. I'm like, the 2023 Padres had extremely high expectations. They didn't live up to them, obviously. I mean, it was such a disappointing year and there was so much criticism and who do you put it on? This, to me, is still a little different because we don't know how it finishes. Like, we kind of knew, especially in the second half of 2023, it was unlikely to end up playing out well. They played really well in September, only to put themselves in a position where they finished over 500. This is not going to be easy. Like you said, they might be able to win here in the regular season. That doesn't guarantee them an at-large spot. It's not like it's easy to win a conference tournament championship. Like they may be among the favorites, but that's not easy to win. So if they don't make it, I was making this point yesterday. If they finish the year, and I'm now making it up, you're 21-11, and you're outside looking in. I mean, if that's your low water mark, so to speak, and you've been in the tournament 6 straight years, if you include the COVID year, how could you not? 7 of 8 under Brian Dutcher. We went through the teams, the current tournament streaks. I mean, there's only 3 teams that have been to the NCAA tournament 10 consecutive years. Yeah, right now. So,
and those teams that you're talking about, like they should have no excuse. Like you look at the Aztecs, and you can talk about NIL and stuff like that.
But North Carolina and Duke haven't been each of the last 10 years.
Look how many great opponents that they get to face during the year with the conferences that they are in. Right. Where San Diego State, they get Oregon and Michigan, early on in the year, and then you got to hope that the Mountain West is good because that's what you got the rest of the way.
Right.
By the way, one question.
Yeah. What do you got?
I talk about Reese. I talk about Miles Bird. Do you think it's fair to pin it on those? Like, if you had to pick 2 guys so far, is it fair to pin it on those 2 guys?
I don't like
that's what stands out.
I mean,
on the box score.
No, I mean, I don't look at it through that lens, me personally. I really don't. In fact, I think Reese Dixon Waters has been terrific for them in conference play, by and large. And I think Miles Bird, you might see, might be a game like who did we just, CSU. Mm-hmm. They were just in Fort Collins, right? He's 4 or 14 from the floor. I think he scored 15 points. But then I look at the box score, like as I'm doing my notes and I'm putting them in and I'm filling them in, I'm like, look at this. It's like 15 points, 4 or 14. All right. Well, 4 or 14 is not a high shooting percentage. 3 threes, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. Like that's just who he is, that he could go scoreless, but he could block 3 shots, have 3 steals, 5 assists. Like that's winning basketball for me. Would he like to shoot better? Yes. Would people like to see his, in general, his shooting percentage is higher? Yeah, that would include himself, I'm sure. But what I've always loved about Miles Bird is his defense never takes games off. Like we say this sometimes.
Sure.
It's like the baseball adage, like go for 4 at the plate. But if you're catching and calling a good enough game and putting your pitching staff in a position where you can win a game 3-2, who cares?
Let's make this comparison.
Yeah.
How's this? Miles Bird, Jackson Merrill. Like those guys are right glues to the team. Sometimes they don't bring it, but they can bring it on another side. So
yeah, right. I mean, that's a good point. I mean, Merrill's just a well-rounded player, good defender, clutch hitter. It's not solely based on batting average or OPS with Merrill. He's a good 2-strike hitter. He hits both lefties and righties, right? To his credit. We didn't know if he would when he came up as a rookie. But I think some of it is, they haven't been fully healthy. It's not even to excuse it. It's just at the end of the day, sometimes it's sport. Like you go into a year and say, hey, the Dodgers are the best team. They're not inevitably the best team. There's going to be a year where they're not. Or you go into a year and you don't think your team's going to have the greatest season. Like some of these projections we've talked about with the Padres. There's 80-win projections out there at respected sites like Fangraphs. Well, maybe they win 94 games. Like in 2022, the expectation wasn't to beat the Dodgers necessarily in the postseason. In fact, the expectation was they'd lose. But they did beat the Dodgers. And I would, that's the thing we love about sports. When the Padres are up 2-1 against the Dodgers, as frustrating as it was in 2024, it's like you don't know sometimes. Yep. And that's the beauty of it. We can't predict how it's going to play out. So we'll see. I mean, tonight's a massive game, obviously, for San Diego State. And I think the crowd could play a factor. And at the end of the day, it's basketball. Yeah, they've lost 2 straight games. That doesn't mean they're not capable of winning tonight. It's basketball.
For sure. Totally. Yeah. Do you think, I go back to Oregon, Michigan, games like that early on.
Mm-hmm.
What if they were played later? I know this is total what if.
Yeah.
Would it have been better for it to be played later? Or would it still be the same? Michigan's still, one of the top teams. Like, I don't know if the result would have been different. I know there's been injuries as well. But early on in the year, there were a good amount of new players on the team.
Yeah, I think to some degree it may be. And the reason I say it is from the Arizona game in Phoenix on. I don't have it in front of me because the Aztecs defense at one point heading into the GCU game was the number 1 defense in the country per KenPom from Arizona to that date. Now, GCU shot it well enough and Colorado State really shot it well. I would guess if we looked at from Arizona on, San Diego State probably is like the 3rd best defense or 4th best defense in the country. And to your point, I think if you played someone like Arizona or Michigan now, I think your defense keeps you in it more than it did back in November. And that's got to be their calling card moving forward. If they can play the defense they've played by and large the last 2 months, they'll be in every game. And if you're in a game, you'd like to think maybe you'll find a way to pull it out in the stretch run. All right, we'll get back to the Padres on the other side. Do you want to hang out for another 15 or so?
Yeah.
All right, Ben Fadden talking Friars with us in studio. We're here until 6 p.m. We have Aztec basketball tickets for next Friday to give away. Senior night against UNLV. This is San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by the Carol Markowitz Show. The Padres had a spring training game today against Anaheim. They won 7-3. Tonight, the Aztecs are at home to take on Utah State. Our pregame with Fletch will begin a little after 7, and John will have the tip after 8.
Hi, it's Carol Markowitz. Join me on the Carol Markowitz Show for insightful conversations with Dominic Green, Wall Street Journal contributor, and Algamayr's Corey Walker. You don't want to miss it. Listen to the Carol Markowitz Show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, John Schaefer, Ben Fadden in studio. He's going to hang out for another 30 minutes. If you missed Aaron Smith, you'll hear a conversation coming up at 5 p.m. And this hour, we'll give away San Diego State senior night tickets. They're taking on UNLV next Friday night. We'll give away a pair of tickets for that game coming up next. That game, again, is coming up next Friday. We touched on this earlier, Ben. I'm curious to get your thoughts. I know you've had at least a video or two on it. Well, the Padres ownership and expected sale in general is kind of intriguing, and it does seem like there's legitimate interest, which I think is encouraging for Padres fans. One of the names that recently has come to the forefront is Mohamed Mansour, who's the second-year owner of SDFC, the Egyptian billionaire. And I know he didn't shoot down the idea of having interest when he was asked by CBS 8. It was a very short soundbite. Let me turn your mic on. 3 or 4 seconds. But again, didn't say no. Where would you do you have a ranking here when there's the Joe Lacobs, there are the English Premier League owners, one of which is tied to San Diego or has San Diego ties. Mm-hmm. There's Mohamed Mansour. Do you have a preference here? How do you want to see this play out?
Yeah, there's just limited stuff we know about those other owners and still limited stuff we know about Mohamed Mansour. But what we do know is that it seems like he really cares about a project when he's when he goes in and he's committed to it. He is all in on that. Right. So Right to Dream, it seems like everything's going great there.
Yeah.
SDFC seems like the people there are fantastic and they treat people the right way and all that. So if he were to take that over to the Padres, I think that transition would be good. The big question obviously is baseball. Does he love baseball? Does he like baseball? Does he follow the Padres? Obviously Manny is a minority there with SDFC.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So there's that connection, obviously. And Saquon's a big partner with the Padres, and they've been for such a long time. So I can see that connection. But sure, there's the financial question. But for me, the bigger question, we've heard John Seidler talk about it. He wants someone that is committed to the Padres, loves baseball, loves the Padres, loves San Diego. Checks one of those boxes. We know that for sure. But what about the other boxes? That's the big question. But Dan Freakin, from San Diego. I don't know how long he spent in San Diego, right. But, born in San Diego is what we're reading on, Wiki and stuff. So that's an appealing option. A lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Could they combine those groups? I know that there's egos involved and all that, but, having someone with the local tie already, who's already here with SDFC and has built so much support already in this city, I think that could be a good thing. I think if Mansour comes in, I think that having someone like Sheil Seidler be involved again in the Padres organization would happen. Don't know about other ownership groups, but I think that would happen because Mansour has that Manny connection, and Manny's going to try to keep Sheil involved, is what I would think.
That's interesting. I hadn't necessarily thought about it like that. I made a point earlier, and I don't know if it's accurate or not. I don't know anything about Mansour's potential, what his, how much money basically he has to throw at this.
Right.
It's like we made the point earlier. It's like you can own $1 million home in San Diego, and there's a lot of San Diegans that do, but it's not a $10 million home. And there's nothing wrong with $1 million home. It's a lot more expensive than a lot of other people have. But it's like it's a different block in the neighborhood. The $10 million homes in Bird Rock ain't the $1 million homes. So it's like, yeah, he bought a franchise for $500 million. That's a lot of money. The richest deal, the expansion price in the history of Major League Soccer. We're talking 4, 5, 6 times that just to get in. Plus now your spend in baseball is going to be much higher, obviously, than in professional soccer in America. Now, you could have other funds available to you. You can combine with other people on an ownership group. Maybe he represents ownership, but I just don't have a feel for it. Is this someone that has billions and billions. You can't even
His
relate
net
to
worth
this.
is over $3 billion, but that doesn't mean that's how much money he has.
Yeah, and if your net worth is $3 billion, does that mean you're going to spend $3 billion in the Padres? I wouldn't think so. Like, you're not going to use all of your assets to acquire a Major League Baseball team. But then again, if you used $1 billion of assets and then combine it with someone else's $1 billion of assets, maybe you do kind of represent that ownership group. It's for me, I've made the point over the course of the last couple of months that, like, San Diego or not, I just want some owner.
Yeah.
But in San Diego, we've had a lot of bad owners over the years. Clippers situation, Donald Sterling, obviously Chargers situation with Dean Spanos. It doesn't need to be rehashed. But I'm not saying you're going to get Peter Seidler, but you better not get the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you're from Minnesota, Egypt, or San Diego, you just want someone that's committed to throwing the resources that are necessary to win at a high level.
Yep. Some people say they want someone that's San Diegan. Some people, they don't care and they want money. I'd like a combination of both.
That's fair.
I think it's
That's fair.
possible.
Yeah. I think you're 100% right. I mean, Southern California, California as a state is like the fifth highest GDP in the world if it was its own country. There's serious money. Obviously, whether it's somewhere in Southern California, Joe Lacob and what he's done, obviously, in Northern California with the Warriors. I think the good news is if you're a Padres fan, it doesn't seem like they're, really, it doesn't seem like the Padres organization are just hoping and praying for an offer. It seems like they're going to get multiple offers potentially. And the thing I've said about John Seidler is he's not Peter Seidler. His dream wasn't to own the San Diego Padres. So if that's the case, that's fine. And then move on, from the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Peter said what he said, which is, I think, this team will be in my family's name for generations. All right, things change. I'd rather see someone come in and win than the team stay with the Seidler name and not win.
Yep, correct.
Right?
I think we can all agree on that. Yeah,
right.
Right.
So, and I'm with you. The Shield Seidler thing's interesting. Could she play a role in an ownership group? I asked that recently to Kevin Acee. I think you may have heard it. He refuted that or shot that down as a possibility pretty quickly.
And I'm not saying, and to be clear, I'm not saying a significant part, maybe even less than 1%, or just not even a part of the ownership group, but she has a role in the organization. And as long as Manny's there or Preller's there, she's staying. Like something
kind of like
where
Machado with SDFC.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah.
But again, without knowing, now Machado could own, I don't know if he owns 1% of the franchise or 10%, but it doesn't matter. It's almost more of a PR move as well. Hey, Manny Machado, who's a local athlete who lives in San Diego, who's a soccer fan, owns a part of the club. That's good PR for SDFC, just like Shield Seidler, to your point, might be good PR for the Padres if the next ownership group were to include her in some capacity. She may not be the chairperson of the Padres, but again, that question wasn't outside the, wasn't that foolish a year ago. We thought she may actually one day be the
I think it's pretty obvious she doesn't have the money, but I think she should still be involved. I think Padres fans, core Padres fans, I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah. It's interesting. I feel like it's an interesting time in the history of the San Diego Padres because where they've thrown so much money at this franchise this decade, to their credit, in a market that is not Los Angeles or New York. We all understand it. And market dynamics matter in a sport like baseball because of revenues and television specifically. The Padres, despite the headwinds and despite the ownership change, are still going to finish in the top 10 in payroll. They still have some of the most marketable stars in the game. They still have brilliant players at their best, like Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis, Jackson Merrill, and so on and so forth. I guess the question moving forward is, can they continue to win at the clip they've won at over the last 5 or 6 years? It hasn't been perfect the last 5 or 6 years. The next 5 or 6, you can make the argument, hey, Merrill and Tatis, hey, they're going to lead you into the future. They're still in their 20s. But also, you've got aging players like Machado and Bogarts, Joe Musgrove, and others. Are they holding on? Does it feel at all like to you that they're holding on? Or not, because it seems like a lot of the spending was happening in the 2021s and 2022s. Yep. Now, again, they've committed those dollars moving forward. Do you feel like they're holding on, or do you feel like their future is as bright as the last 5 years have been?
Holding on, I think we can wait to say holding on until a couple years down the road. Because right now, I think Musgrove is the guy when it comes to what's the Padres window? Because he's a pitcher. I'm not saying it's him, but I'm saying his contract. Because right now, sure, Manny long-term, all these guys long-term. We know you could be holding on when those guys are past their prime. When Musgrove's no longer a Padre or he's not in this contract. Right now, I don't think they're holding on. I mean, it's playoffs pretty much every year. And it's guys going over. It's top 3 guys in the order in the playoffs going over in game 1 and game 3. Like, you have a super bullpen. I don't think that it's them holding on. I think it's them trying to do their best. Like, all AJ Preller can do, I've said this so many times on my show. All AJ can do is put the best team possible on paper on the field. He can't control. He's not the one in the box. So I don't think he's holding on here. And even if he was, I think Padre fans should still appreciate that, because would you want someone who just wants to tear it apart when you have Manny Machado still where he's at and Tatis and Merrill? Like, the answer is no. So, yeah, I don't think I would wait for the holding on part.
Did you read into any part of the Preller saga this offseason to mean more than it meant? As in, the deal got done, they were already in camp. It was kind of an awkward timeline because players were asked about it, and that got a little weird with like Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr. Yeah. Machado talking about Krupner. Yeah. Like, one got an extension, the other didn't.
That was awesome, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, that was kind of interesting to hear it, him being so transparent. Would you read anything into why that took 4 months to play out?
I wanted to. I don't know if I should. Is there a reason for me to believe John Seidler when he says, I just like to do things in person?
Right.
Because there was time to connect. Like, you could say Preller was in Japan or whatever. Like, there's time for you to connect. There's a thing called Zoom. There's a thing called FaceTime. Like, come on. So I don't know if I should believe that, but if we're going to take it that way, like, Preller was under contract anyway. And the focus for him is to build the roster. I think both parties knew the extension was going to happen regardless. It was going to happen at some point. And I think we just had we needed something to talk about. And Preller, obviously, his future, that's a huge thing in this city because of how much people love him and the players. I mean, go listen to anyone in that clubhouse. They love that guy. So that's going to be a talking point, but it was going to happen. Spring training, sometimes that's what, especially when Manny goes and says what he says, it's going to, accelerate things. And that's Kevin says, I think he said on your show.
That didn't play a role.
That didn't play a role, but come on. That's kind of hard to believe too.
Well, that's where perception becomes reality, because I think a lot of people think what you think, which is,
I'm not saying like it was 80-20,
but you hear from Manny Machado, then a deal gets done and people say, well, Manny Machado runs the organization.
He took a shot at Eric Grubner there.
He did.
So
he did. Yeah. What do you make? Here's my other question on the Preller deal. Is they announced that it's a multi-year deal, but they won't get into terms. Okay, I don't need to know what he's making.
Preller doesn't want it. I get it.
And Preller doesn't want it. But you think there's anything in there that's creative, like the deals he signs with his players where he has opt-outs? As in the multiple years for 2026 and 2027. Yeah. But if the team changes ownership, is there an out? Is there an out after 2027, but the deal includes 2028? Because when I hear we don't want to get into specifics or something like that, it doesn't seem like anything that you would really typically hide. We had known previously how long AJ Preller was under contract.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden we don't.
Yeah.
Like, is it 2027 or is it 2028?
Remember, Peter, he extended Preller way before his last contract was up, if I remember correctly, through 2026.
Yep.
Was it 2021 or something? Yeah.
Yep.
So that never got to the point where that was a talking point.
Right.
So now it was a talking point and he's uncomfortable about it, which I understand.
Yep.
But so I wanted to note that. I think there totally could be. Yeah. I mean, AJ's not done.
He's not done.
So maybe he's talking to these ownership groups and, they say hello at the ballpark during the ballpark tours. And he goes to ownership and says, I want these guys, or he gives them 3 options. And then maybe a 4th one swoops in here today or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, I never met this guy. And then they go meet and the end of the year comes and AJ's like, this guy's not going to give me the resources that I need. And then he's like, yeah, I'm not doing this. Because I've said this before, he is coveted by other teams. That is no doubt. Like the Yankees, I don't know if they would do it, but Brian Cashman, how much longer is he going to do it? Right. That seems like a logical fit because of where AJ's from. Yeah. Other teams would love to have him.
Sure, I agree. I think he would be sought after if obviously he was truly a free agent.
I think he wants to finish the job. I think that's a big thing.
And I think you're probably right. I think you're right. And I think he's got an opportunity to do that. At some point, I've always said this, and we can touch on this more on the other side. Plus, I do want to get into the Wave and SDFC with you, because I've been covering both of those teams as well. But I've always said that I appreciate what Preller's done. I think he gets the benefit of the doubt, and I'm with you. He's put together teams that are capable of winning the postseason, but there will come a time where 15 or 20 years have passed, and that's a long time. And there'll be probably a second act in the career of AJ Preller if he doesn't ultimately bring a World Series to the city of San Diego. At some point, it probably gets stale just because it's rare to be in a position like he's been in for as long as he has.
Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah. We can discuss more on the other side. Plus, we'll get into, again, the Wave and SDFC with Ben Fadden in studio for another 15 minutes. With us here on San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, San Diego Sports 760, another handful of minutes with Ben Fadden talking Friars in studio. He doesn't just talk Friars, he talks soccer, talks Aztecs, talks San Diego sports, right?
Yep.
So, all right, you've spent a good amount of time around the Wave over the last couple of years.
Yep.
You've been covering SDFC
Yep.
over the last year as well. Obviously, SDFC off to a great start. Caught up with Darren earlier. They're playing again this weekend at Snapdragon Stadium. I asked Darren earlier, I'm like, can SDFC live up to the expectations coming off reaching the Western Conference Finals and hosting them last year? That's a lot to live up to.
Yeah.
In year two, it seems like it is at least a possibility heading into this year.
For sure. I think it all starts with the back line, and it starts with their keeping position. CJ, we'll see what happens with his health. But, I mean, whether it's Duran Ferree or it's Nisniega, they're in a good spot there. And then you have Luka Bombino and how young he is, Chris McVeigh, the back line there, that's what's going to give you at least 1 point in these standings. So that's been huge. And then, sure, Chucky, that's a huge thing.
It was a huge story, right? But it seems like
that's the only thing people would talk about.
But it seems like they played great in the absence of them.
Yep.
Right?
And so I think that will start to die down.
Yeah, I think so.
Because you still have weapons. And I know there's question marks about Amal Pellegrino and how he's old and stuff like that. But it's working. It worked in the playoffs, and it's working now. They got past the first round in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. They just won 5-0. Anders Jar didn't score the other night.
That's right. Darren was saying they scored 9 goals between the CONCACAF
series
not on his opener, and he hasn't scored.
Yeah, so he can affect it in other ways. They still have Yepe in the midfield, still have Anibal Godoy. So it's people can focus on Chucky, but there's so many pieces that are returning from the success of last year. It's a team. It's a team sport at the end of the day.
Point.
I know, there's Chucky FC, right? That gets talked about, but it's clearly a team. Mikey Varas, Tyler Heaps are doing a tremendous job at what they're doing. I think we should believe them until they give us a reason not to believe them, and they haven't given us a reason to not believe them.
Yeah, I like the way you put it. And by the way, retaining Mikey Varas,
yes,
retaining Tyler Heaps, that goes a long way.
It's got an extension. Yep.
Yeah. San Diego Wave get underway in a couple of weeks, right? March 14th, Snapdragon Stadium. You've been with the Wave for how long?
A couple years,
right?
Yep.
This is their 5th season, by the way.
Yeah.
That's not up on me. But here's their 5th anniversary logo. I'm like, how? That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
What are their expectations?
I think they're a playoff team, but it's going to be very interesting because there are some huge names. I can't think of San Diego Wave without Kalen Sheridan. That's just the bottom line.
Yep.
So her being gone, Savannah McCaskill in the midfield, there's some big names. Hannah Lundqvist. It's just there are big names that are gone, but there's talent that came in, and there's a huge name that's out there, with rumors with Kat Macario, and we'll see what happens there. They still have their team captains. Caitlin obviously was the team captain, but there's still Kennedy Wesley. She's on the national team. She's one of the best defenders in the country. They still have Kenza Dolly leading the midfield. There's, they brought in Ludmila, who was scoring a ton of goals with Chicago last year. And so, they're looking for that number 9. They're looking for more goals to be scored, and they can find that. Dudinha, on the wing, there's talent there. Kimi Escanio, who's still super young, so talented. And then Mel Barcenas, we'll see, how she comes back from injury. Kristen McNabb, I think, is one of the most underrated players in the NWSL, not talked about enough. She is so good there as one of the center backs there with Kennedy Wesley. So there's young talent, obviously, that they brought in. But the international, Gia Corley, there's just a lot of talent. So, and Didi Hericic is still a really solid keeper to have back there. So I think they can be a playoff team. There's some uncertainty with some other teams in the league, with injuries or, players that are pregnant. So they're, not available for their teams. So, second year under Jonas Eidevall, I think it can get better. And then we'll see what happens in that summer, transfer window, if that indeed is when a huge move ends up being made. But yeah, I urge people to go support. I know MLS gets a lot of the headlines here.
Sure.
Manny Machado maybe, and all the bigger names there. But San Diego Wave, they have a national team player in Kennedy Wesley, and they've got some of the best players in the world on their team. Some of the best players in this league they come right here to Snapdragon Stadium in San Diego. So I definitely recommend that you check them out, and they're a team to watch for sure.
Yeah, listen, San Diego has become this ridiculous market for soccer. Everyone always knew it was, but now it truly is because you're seeing it right in front of your own 2 eyes. And then you have Olympic soccer coming, obviously, to Snapdragon Stadium, which I think is a huge coup for the city of San Diego and for Snapdragon Stadium. So, you don't really have to sell soccer on San Diegans at this point. I think in other places you probably do, but the immediate success of the Wave was basically unmatched in American women's soccer.
Yeah.
The success of SDFC. People kind of forget that Snapdragon Stadium is the largest outdoor kind of soccer specific stadium in the country. Sure, there's dome stadiums that have, you could draw 50,000 people.
Charlotte playing in a football stadium.
Yeah, but that's those are NFL stadiums. This stadium, yes, built for American football, obviously for San Diego State, but also made for international and professional American soccer.
Yep.
And the response from the market, from the city to soccer at Snapdragon Stadium, I think has been unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Right? It's hard. It's like you can't even argue that. Like the way the wave has been received, the way Major League Soccer has been received, the international friendlies that have been here, not just friendlies, national teams have played here over the last couple of years, Olympics coming here. So, it's funny because San Diego, you know it better than I do growing up here. It gets like an unfair deal sometimes. Like, San Diego, is it a good sports city? Clippers moved. Rockets moved back in the day. Chargers moved. The ownership issues is not a reflection on a city.
Exactly.
It's like that. That's not a reflection on a city. And there's very few cities in the country that draw like this for baseball, draw like this for professional soccer, both men's and women's. Like, it's pretty unique, truthfully. Listen, there's a lot of big cities in America. Baltimore, it's probably similar size to San Diego. There's nobody at Orioles games. In fact, decent teams last 2 or 3 years. You watch it on a Friday night, the top of Camden Yards is like closed. You know what I mean? So, listen, we're fortunate to be here now where we have these franchises performing at a good clip. And I think San Diegans have supported them at a high level.
Yeah, great. They're in a great spot. SDFC, Wave, those are playoff caliber teams.
No doubt.
Padres, playoff caliber team. San Diego State, basketball, every year they're going to be in it. San Diego State football, huge step forward. This city is in a great spot and obviously tremendous fans.
Ben, good seeing you, my man.
Yeah.
All right. Ben Fadden, Talking Friars. Check him out on YouTube. All right. On the other side, again, if you missed Darren Smith earlier, you'll hear a conversation coming up at 5 p.m. Coming up next, we're giving away Aztec tickets. They're taking on UNLV a week from Friday night, senior night at Viejas Arena. We'll give those tickets away coming up next on San Diego Sports 760.
The support is sponsored by Red Pilled America. The Padres had a spring training game today against the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, and they won a 7-3. The Aztecs are back home tonight to take on Utah State. Our pregame coverage with Fletch will begin a little after 7, and John will have the tip after 8.
So many big tech monopolies. This week on Red Pilled America, we tell the untold origin story of YouTube and how its founders hijacked the idea for a video sharing site to build a Silicon Valley behemoth. Listen to Red Pilled America on the iHeartRadio app.
All right, San Diego Sports 760 here until 6 p.m. We've got Aztec pregame, San Diego State, Utah State, the showdown at Viejas at 8 o'clock tonight. I'll be on the call. Again, our pregame coverage is going to begin at 7 p.m. We also want to congratulate our $5,000 winners in iHeartRadio's Thank a Teacher, powered by Donors Choose. There is still time for you to nominate a public school teacher making a difference, and maybe they'll be one of our next winners of $5,000. To make over their classroom, you can help us say thank you to the educators shaping our future. Nominate your favorite teacher now at iHeartRadio.com/teachers. All right, I mentioned this earlier. We'll give away Aztec tickets in 10 minutes for senior night, which is a week from Friday. What's today, Wednesday? So 9 days from now. Senior night, Viejas Arena, final home game of the year against UNLV. Great giveaway. We'll tell you how to win those tickets coming up in 10 minutes. Back to where we started the show with the Aztecs. Tonight's the night, Aztec fans, to make Viejas Arena what it is been a number of times over the years, right? What has given it the reputation as one of the best buildings in the West, if not the country, one of the true, cathedrals of the sport, certainly in the West. With all the huge crowds over the years, tonight's that night. And I know, because I see our text line and I read the message boards and I see social media, I've seen the frustration, right? I've seen what people have said. But tonight's not about that, right? Tonight is about taking out all your feelings on everything and using it to San Diego State's advantage, in my opinion, because the Aztecs are going to need it. Now, again, San Diego State's going to have to do its part, right? They're going to have to play very well against Utah State. This is a team that Utah State is close to a tournament lock at this point. They've lost 4 games this year. Bracketologists have them as high as 5-6 seed. They're not going to be, but they're sitting in that 7, 8, 9 range. They're very likely at this point to make the NCAA tournament, regardless of how their season finishes. And you're taking on a good team. So, yeah, the team has to do its part. I'm talking about SDSU. But I really do believe the crowd can play a huge role in a game like this. And we've seen some very good crowds this year. And I thought the crowd was really good against GCU, truthfully, when they lost that game the other night, a week or so ago. But this has to be that to the next level. It really does, whether it's the show with the students, whether it's the rest of the fan base. You got to be, this has got to be that night where, you go on a 5-0 run and people are on their feet. You get a defensive stop and people are on their feet. Miles Bird comes up with a steal. That to me is what tonight is, because there are very few must-win games in college basketball, because ultimately it can come down to a conference tournament. And that's still the case with San Diego State. Win or lose tonight, it's potentially still, San Diego State has a path in via, obviously, the Mountain West tournament. But this is one of those games, and with SDSU, you don't say it as much, where you got to find a way. Because if you don't win tonight, you're staring at New Mexico at the pit with the quick turnaround Saturday, and then you're staring at Boise on their senior night, Brent. So this is one of those games that just find a way. And I think everyone plays a role, whether it's, obviously from coaches to players to fans. I think everything is going to play a role in a game that could be very closely played, could be decided by one possession or one call or 1 point. And I think the crowd and home court advantage matters. And I think it could tonight for SDSU.
And we've kind of been talking about it for the last week and a half about, they got a little bit of leeway. They can lose a game here. And, but we said they can't lose no more than 2. And they've lost their 2. So they're literally, their backs are up against the wall right now.
Yep.
So I'm kind of hoping that it's, going to be that thing about, caged animal and everything, that I'm hoping that now that their backs are literally up against the wall, there is no more leeway for them at all, that it's going to be kind of like the wounded animal analogy now, to where, because they don't have anywhere else to go, they have to go forward. So I'm hoping that maybe the sense of desperation maybe will set in, and that'll kind of not wake them up, but maybe light a little spark under their butt a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to look at it like that. Like, yeah, like when you're in that state where all of a sudden, things have changed, right? Like it's not just any game. It's just like, okay, it's November 18th and we're playing Lamar. Like, no, like you are up against the proverbial wall, to your point. So now do you approach it differently as a result?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, they might have been going for a rebound, but, tonight they're need to be going for that rebound. Like that's the last rebound you're ever going to get. And if you don't get that rebound, your season is over.
Now, the danger in that, now I will say this, because I've hyped this game up, and the danger of that is when you put everything in one game, well, this isn't the last game. And if you don't win it, you don't want to treat this like you win this or your season is over. You can't do that from a coaching perspective. That you're going to get your team back up for the next game, regardless of what happens here today. But I think from the fan perspective, and I think the players sense this as well, that this is like, it's now or never to some extent. Also, like, how are you going to feel if you're an Aztec fan? And even internally, if your 2-game losing streak turns into something greater than that, if all of a sudden you have lost 3 or 4 in a row, how confident are you going to be heading into the Mountain West tournament that you're capable of winning 3 games in 3 days? Like it just gets harder. It seems like it's a higher hurdle if that plays out. Now, San Diego State, again, has always been one of these teams that kind of has been able to right the ship. So rarely do they lose more than 1 game in a row, truthfully. Like, rarely do they lose consecutive games. And now they've lost 2 straight games. It's been forever. It's been nearly a decade since they've lost 3 straight games. Which is a credit to Brian Dutcher and his staff and his players and everyone and the fan base, everything that's gone into it. That's a ridiculous thing to say. San Diego State is the 2nd longest streak in America of not losing more than 2 consecutive games. Let me say it again. SDFC was the 2nd longest streak in America of not losing more than 2 consecutive games. Now that's in jeopardy tonight, obviously, because they've lost 2 straight.
Who has the first?
Want to guess?
No.
It's actually easy when you think about it. Me saying that might make it a little easier.
Gonzaga?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, easier conference.
Because of, they're now, again, out of conference. Are they playing big time opponents? Yeah, they are. But normally what they'll do is they'll balance it. You might play number 5 Michigan State and then come home and play, a bye game or a guarantee, and then go back out, and play like a Texas. But yeah, Gonzaga, the year they last lost 3 consecutive games?
No.
Oh, I know you don't, but you want to take a stab?
2018.
No, that's San Diego State. Gonzaga is 2011. Is that not insane?
Is that pre or post Adam Morrison crying?
Probably post.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. That would be in that time frame, right? Look that up. I feel like Adam Morrison was more in the Cinderella days of Gonzaga. Gonzaga is no longer a Cinderella, right? They're kind of like a big dog on the block, even though they come out of the WCC. But
that was 2021.
No, 2021.
The crying game, pun intended, was April 3rd, 2021 against UCLA.
Not Adam Morrison, though.
Yeah.
Adam Morrison played at Gonzaga in 2006 through 2010. No, before that. He was in the NBA in 2006. Maybe it was 2001, Brent.
Oh, okay. The article they republished it. They must have looked back at it.
Yeah,
poor Adam Morrison.
He was in the early 2000s at Gonzaga when
2006.
When they were that Cinderella, right, on their way up, and now of course they've been in the tournament so much. But anyway, it's a long way of saying that we'll see if tonight's the night or not. Again, you're not making the tournament tonight. That's not my point, and you're not officially out if you don't win tonight. You can win games in Vegas. We've seen this routinely. It's the madness of March. We've seen crazy things happen in conference tournaments and the NCAA tournament. But I think to feel back, to feel good about where you're at, to gain back some confidence, tonight's kind of that night for San Diego State. Can you find your footing at home where you have so many times over the years. And I think the good news is heading into this game, nobody's on the injury report heading in. Magoon Guath was banged up the other day, played just 4 or 5 minutes. Hopefully he's healthier. Elsie Harrington missed a month. He came back against Colorado State. Hopefully you see his impact even more so potentially in a game like this tonight against Utah State. No, by the way, that game that was played in Logan earlier this year between the Aztecs and the Aggies was a very winnable game. San Diego State, within a minute or 2 minutes to play, trailed by 2 before a Drake Allen layup kind of stretched out to 2 possessions and put Utah State in a good spot. So again, the Aztecs played Utah State well, didn't win the game in Logan. Now we'll see if they can play them well again here tonight and win the game in San Diego. Again, tip-off at 8, pregame coverage beginning at 7 p.m. with Ben Fletcher on San Diego Sports 760. All right, we do have 2 free tickets for senior night against UNLV next Friday night. If you want those tickets, be caller number 8 right now to 877-767-4760. Caller number 8, you are going to see the Aztecs on senior night, their final home game of the year. That'll be next Friday night. And again, the number to call is 877-767-4760. We haven't gotten to the wrap as of yet. We can do that on the other side. Plus, if you missed our conversation with Darren Smith, who's calling SDFC games and more, you'll hear that coming up at 5 p.m. So here until 6, getting you ready for Aztecs basketball tonight. And call right now if you want those tickets, 877-767-4760. This is San Diego Sports 760, and we're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, San Diego Sports 760. We'll hear from Darren Smith coming up at 5 p.m. Of course, you can hear him on SDFC games right here on your home for SDFC, San Diego Sports 760. Also doing the Fire Territory podcast and more. So we'll hear from Darren.
His Johnnies aren't looking too hot right now.
No, it's a good point. So when he joined us earlier, he was looking forward to UConn and St. John's from wherever this is tonight, Stores or Hartford or somewhere. And UConn has jumped out to a big lead against the Johnnies, 38-24 late first half at Connecticut. So ESPN, as we're ramping up, Brent, for baseball season, because we're a month out. In fact, the Padres home opener and season opener is 1 month and a day away, March 26th, which of course with this short month means we're 29 days out. It's coming. 4 weeks, just over 4 weeks out. In fact, what's today? Wednesday. So 4 weeks from Thursday, I think is their opener. But as we ramp up, ESPN's putting out this content, and today they put out Major League Baseball lineup rankings according to ESPN. Now, remember, on one hand, the Padres last year were woeful in a number of offensive categories, including power, a key indicator in success in the postseason. The Padres ended up with the third fewest home runs in the sport. That's not ideal, right? 28. Yes, it's a pitcher's ballpark, but come on. 28th in home runs is not what they were seeking heading into the year. So, looking at it through that lens, you're like, well, how good is their lineup heading into the year? What do they have? 15th best lineup, 20th best lineup? I mean, they weren't a great offense a year ago. And according to ESPN, the Padres have a top 10 lineup in the sport, which makes sense. It's justifiable when you have Machado, Tatis, Merrill. Like, it's very justifiable for me. You could make that claim. Now they live up to it because the team right in front of them is the Phillies. And the team directly behind them is the Diamondbacks in a much more hitter-friendly ballpark than Petco is. Now, do they have the Dodgers lineup or the Braves lineup? No, the Dodgers have the top lineup, according to ESPN. But if, in fact, Brent, the Padres have the 10th best lineup in the sport, I think it's going to be an awesome year because we already know about the bullpen. So if, in fact, they get the 10th most production offensively, their pitching is capable of being a top 10 staff. And then all of a sudden you're looking at a 90-win year. So I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't think they had a top 10 lineup last year. In fact, I know they didn't have a top 10 lineup. This would be a big jump from where they were last year. But maybe it's encouraging to know that the pieces are in place for them to have a much better offensive season in 2026.
There's two things that I thought were interesting in this.
Okay.
One, their base lineup that they have listed for the Padres.
Yeah.
No Castellanos in it.
No Nick Castellanos.
No.
Okay.
He's not in the starting lineup.
Give me their just whatever lineup.
This isn't their batting order. I don't think this is their lineup. They got Bogarts, Jackson Merrill, Manny, Fernando, Crony, Ramon Laureano, Gavin Sheets, Miguel Andujar, and then Freddie Fermin.
I think that's their lineup.
So you don't think they'll start Castellanos at first?
They definitely could, but I'm saying I think that's
he played first
order.
today a little bit.
I was going to say, I think that's their batting order. That's their projected batting order. No, he's going to play. I just don't know if he's going to platoon or not. But yeah, no, he's absolutely going to play.
The other thing I thought was interesting, and they graded all the teams by these categories: hitting, patience, power, base running, durability, depth, hitting against righties, hitting against lefties, how many stars they have in the lineup, which they only have them with 2, which is Manny and Fernando. And then the last one, which I thought was how many holes they have on the team. They've according to ESPN, the Padres have 0 holes on their team. Have you seen
team or a lineup?
In the lineup. Have you seen the first base situation that we've been in? I would say that's a hole. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would say that, first of all, the jury's out on Freddie Fermin as an everyday catcher. Now, again, maybe some of that is a luxury. You don't need a lot of offensive production out of that position, especially if he's in the number 9 hole. But yeah, there's some things that need to be proven at first. Absolutely. They didn't just address it with a lot of money. Like, it's a little wishful heading into the year. I would agree with that. I would add Jackson Merrill in the star category. Now, I get it. He didn't have the same year in year 2 than he had in year 1, but I would put Merrill in the star category. I wouldn't put Bogarts, as they didn't as well.
Well, it does say at the bottom of their blurb that The Padres need a bounce back season from Merrill and a throwback season from Bogarts to double the star count. So,
yeah, I think that's, I'm not holding out hope on Bogarts because I've done it before. And it's like, fool me once, shame on me, or whatever it is. Like, I'm not going to hold out hope that Bogarts returns to Boston Bogarts, but I'm absolutely going to be optimistic on Jackson Merrill. And I wouldn't be surprised if Merrill outproduces his rookie year production. And that would be huge. And I'm not going to be surprised if Fernando Tatis Jr. is improved from where he's been. Now, maybe I'd be surprised if he was a top 3 hitter like he was in 2021, because it feels like he's a long way from that player. I mean, 2021 is a very long time ago. What he has on his side is he's 27. He's not 33. So maybe this will be the year that Tatis puts it all together. I think it's much more likely this is the year Tatis puts it all together than this is the year Xander Bogaerts puts it all together.
Yeah, easily.
I mean, that's not even worthy of a conversation. And listen, pieces like Gavin Sheets, Nick Castellanos, Miguel Andujar, Jake Cronenworth are helpful. They're good players. I don't think any of those players are great players. Nobody's going to confuse Jake Cronenworth for a great bat. I think at his best, he's good, which is good. Castellanos is older. I don't think you're going to get a great year, right? A career year, but I think you get a good year out of him. And there's also something we talk about in sports about like regression to the mean. If they underperformed last year, collectively or individually, maybe they just overperform the next. Doesn't have to do with hitting coaches. It's just sport, right? There's years where, in the NBA, a good 3-point shooter might be 5 percentage points below his career average, and then the next year he's 3% better than his career average. That's just the randomness of sport to some extent. So I do think they're due for a bounce back in that regard as well. Like, are they really going to be worse than 28th in home runs hit? Of course they're not. It's very unlikely that they're going to be worse than 28th in home runs hit. There's a much better chance they're top 15 in home runs than they finish 29th or 30th in home runs in 2026.
I did think it was weird too. Did you look at like the rest of the list, or?
Yeah, I have it.
Were you kind of shocked by, don't call me Oakland, Vegas? Is anyone alive back there? A's?
They're sixth. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Here's the top 10. Okay, with the Padres coming in 10th, the Phillies 9th, the Yankees 8th, the Cubs 7th, the A's 6th, then the Blue Jays 5th, the Mariners 4th, the Mets 3rd, the Braves 2nd, the Dodgers 1st. Guess what about this group? Some of the best lineups in baseball heading into the year were nowhere near the postseason last year. Atlanta, now they had injuries everywhere, a lot of it pitching. The Mets were a train wreck, basically. Now, they weren't out of the postseason until like the final weekend. Weren't they winner in against the Marlins, and they like didn't even show up and lost like 4-0? And then there's also the A's, who are nowhere near the postseason, and they're projected to have, again, a good lineup. Now, they play Sacramento, Brett, and that's a ballpark factor, right? Where they're getting the bump because of Sacramento. The numbers in Sacramento have been a joke.
Well, yeah, that explains their A- power rating.
Yeah, I think so. It's like kind of like saying Colorado has a good lineup, although I don't even know where the Rockies rank here. It can't. I only see the top 21, and they're not on it. I would imagine they're not 30th, are they? So you have that with the Rockies at the 30th best lineup, even with their horrific record, right? Just because they play Coors Field, I would give them a bump over the 30th best lineup. Would be my guess. I'd put them at like 25th, just in my head.
Now they're 30th.
30th. Okay, they're that pathetic. I mean, they've been so
they got an F in hitting, an F in patience, a D in power, which is amazing considering where they play. Hey, they got a C- in base running, an F in durability, a D in depth, an F against righties, an F against lefties, 0 stars, and 8 holes.
Other than that, though, they played. They played. Who is managing the Rockies? Because I do not want that job. Rockies manager. Is it the guy with the last name? Isn't it Schaefer? Warren Schaefer. No relation. Warren Schaefer is the manager of the Colorado Rockies. All right, let's get Darren Smith on the other side. SDFC off a week 1 win. We'll touch on the Padres and the Aztecs as well. With Darren Smith back with us on the other side. We're here until 6 p.m. Again, Aztec Hoops tonight at 8 from Vienna Arena with pregame coverage beginning at 7 p.m. But again, Darren Smith, who joins us earlier, if you missed it, that's on the other side. Final hour coming up next on San Diego Sports 760. We are live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by Mattress Firm. The Padres defeated Anaheim in spring training action today, 7-3. The Aztecs are back home tonight at Viejas Arena to take on Utah State for first place of the Mountain West. Our pregame coverage with Fletch will begin a little after 7, and John will have the tip after 8. Don't wait to save. Mattress Firm's President's Day sale ends soon. Their sleep experts are highly trained to find the right bed for your specific needs. Easier search, better rest. Get both today. They make sleep easy.
All right, final hour here on San Diego Sports 760 with Aztecs basketball. Tonight at 8, pregame coverage with Ben Fletcher beginning at 7. It was great to connect with Darren Smith earlier today. We touch on SDFC, the Aztecs, the Padres as well. We started the conversation about SDFC's opening night win over Montreal and how big it was to get off to a great start this year, coming off all the success of last year.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, obviously there's no such thing as flawless performance, but, I don't know how it could have gone much better. Even, bringing in CONCACAF Champions Cup into the mix, right? You're playing an in-form Pumas team, which was pretty good. It was performing at a pretty high level. Now, how good they actually are is debatable, but they were in form. They were a quarter of their way into the regular season. And SDFC had but 3 weeks of camp. They had no time. They had no on-ramp into that tournament. So to see what they've done, they've scored 9 goals in their 3 matches, and they've been from 9 different goal scorers. And Anders Dreyer, an MVP finalist, hasn't scored one of them, right? Like, that's kind of a crazy thing to think about how good and how balanced this team could be. So, yeah, I mean, I kind of came into it thinking, I hope we don't all fall into the trap of thinking that they're in competition with themselves, right, from a year ago, and how good they were, this record-setting pace, this unprecedented success when it came to wins and points. But I'm not so sure that they aren't challenging themselves to be a better version of what we saw in 2025. So it's been an incredible start for them, and hopefully continue Sunday night.
It's interesting because, you'll be on the call this upcoming weekend, St. Louis City, back here in San Diego. You can hear that match right here on San Diego Sports 760. But like, in talking about expectations, like, sometimes that can be hard. I go back to the 2023 Padres, crazy expectations that they're coming off an NLCS, or San Diego State basketball this year, really high expectations, now trying to fight their way into the NCAA tournament. Like, sometimes we say, like, what are really expectations? What impact does that really have on a team? But I feel like that is, like, there's a weight there that can potentially impact a team. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's fair. I remember Steve Fisher. I actually brought this up with Mikey Vadas last week. Mm-hmm. And I remember Steve Fisher, the year that San Diego State broke through in the NCAA tournament and made it to the Sweet 16. I do remember Steve Fisher saying, in some ways it's really important for us to get back next year, for us to show everybody that this wasn't just one time that we won a couple of games in the NCAA tournament. Sometimes the year after success is, that level of pressure, right? And, you factor in some of the other stuff with SDFC, like the decision not to have Chucky Lozano be part of your future, right? Like, that's put a lot of people kind of questioning some of the decision-making here. So, I do think that, all that is fair. And again, like, I sort of was reluctant to start expecting, that we would see what it was. But, they built such a great foundation last year. And I think, what they're doing now is just sort of refining some of the stuff that made them successful and maybe getting a little bit of health, right? Like, I thought it was really important that Marcus Ingwertson contributed the way he did in game number 1. He had a goal. He had an assist. He was a key figure in the second goal. That's really important for them, because he had mostly a lost season last year, only played 8 games. So, yeah, I mean, I think that they accept it. I think that they, you see these videos with Mikey in the locker room post game, and like, that's who he is. He challenges these guys. He's all about competition. Like, they compete so hard on the practice field, on the training ground. And, I think that's just how they have to be wired in order, if you're going to play here, this is the way that you're going to have to function. So I think it's, it's not so much about us. I think it's the internal expectation and their own level of competition that is what we've seen so far out of the gates, which has been so strong.
Darren Smith with us right now in San Diego Sports 760. I remember asking you last year with all the success, it's kind of like with NIL and college sports. Like, well, we have a really good team, but can we keep the team together? But it's like, well, let's enjoy how it's playing out right now. We'll worry about tomorrow. But there was a lot of conversation. I just was curious. Can you keep your GM? Can you keep your head coach? And they've locked both of these pieces up in Tyler Heaps and Mikey Varis, which I think is a credit to the organization coming off the successes they've enjoyed in this first year. How impactful is that going to be for this franchise moving forward? The fact that both of those critical pieces are going to be here in the short term and hopefully the medium term as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think it's massive to get both those guys. And it's also an endorsement, right, of them, of how they've approached everything from top to tail since, the project was launched before they even had a roster and put the ball on the ground at Snapdragon Stadium. So, it is an endorsement of them, their approach, and getting a chance to know them a little bit. And I talked to Tyler yesterday, like they love San Diego. Like they've really fallen in love with the place. And they also really, they love San Diego Football Club, but they also like being associated with Right to Dream, right? They like being part of, this operation that's connecting this soccer club in San Diego to the club in Denmark, to the club in Egypt, to the club in Ghana. So, it's here, like this is what they primarily focus on, obviously, but it's the bigger picture that these guys really love being a part of. And, I think that they both, have really fallen for the city. I mean, you and I can relate to that. Yep. I talked a little bit about it with Tyler, like from my own personal experience. San Diego is a place that honestly, I didn't think I would spend, 23 going on 24 years now when I first got here. I thought it was maybe a stop along the way. And, now here I am all these years later. And I think that those guys are experiencing that as well. I think they realize how special the place is, not just because it's lifestyle and it's convenient and the weather's nice, right? And you got all these blizzards where Jim lives, but because like they really just, love being here and they've been so embraced by the region. So I think it's great. I mean, it's massive that these guys get locked down. I'm glad to know that they're not going to be, off for other gigs here just based on a little bit of success. It was a concern. Sometimes European clubs come a-calling or bigger clubs in other parts of the world come a-calling. And like, I do think if these guys want those opportunities, they're going to present themselves. One is 34 years old. The other one's 42 or 43 years old. So they'll have plenty of time, but I love the fact that they're locked down here for the short term. I think it's good for all of us.
By the way, keep Jim away from sharp objects. Like, I think he's gone from like
miserable.
Right. At first he's like, oh, snow, it's cute. And then like all it does is snow. And he's like, I think he's not doing well. It's February. He's never experienced anything like this in his life.
No, he sent me a screenshot of like the Doppler weather and it just said FML, which we all know what that means.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Hilarious.
Brutal.
It really, yeah, I mean, we've experienced it, you and I growing up out there. Okay, I know you were talking about this on Friar Territory. We've talked about it on San Diego Sports 760. I don't know if there's like a right or wrong answer. This Fernando Tatis Jr., where do you hit in the lineup debate? Because he's hit a lot as a leadoff hitter in his career. He's been really good as a leadoff hitter historically. Then there's this idea, well, maybe about him lower in the order because you get more power out of him. I was on board with that. I don't know if it automatically is going to make him better, but how do you see it? What are the pros and cons of batting Tatis where he batted last year as a leadoff hitter, as opposed to potentially moving him down in the lineup?
Well, I don't know. Who is he? I mean, are we talking about Fernando Tatis from 2019 to 2021, or are we talking about Fernando Tatis from 2023, 24, and 25? Right? Yep. Like those are two different players. They're both good players, but they're different players. One guy, hit 81 home runs in 3 seasons and not even full seasons, right?
That's right.
And, the other guys hit 71 home runs over 3 years. So, it's tricky. I mean, my whole point is I understand the conversation about wanting to, if you believe in protection in the batting order, like I understand it. Like
Sure.
I understand how it's being explained and why people think it's a good idea. But I just have not been convinced to the point where you're telling me he shouldn't be in the top 3, that, you should you should not have more at bats for Fernando Tatis Jr., who was your best offensive player, right? So no matter how you want to, you can say, well, what does best mean? I don't know if you go by wins above replacement. I do, and he was your best offensive player. And I want that guy to get as many at bats as possible. I don't want him to have less at bats. And mathematically, if you're batting fourth, you're just getting less at bats than if you're batting first. So, I understand that, you want to put him behind Manny and you want him to hit with runners on base. And he seems to want to do that, right? That's the other thing.
Right.
Where did that come from? This idea that Craig Stammen said he didn't think he was good, that Fernando didn't think he was good at batting leadoff. And Fernando then himself was like, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Where did all that come from? Nobody talked about that last year at all. Right. So I want that guy to get as many at-bats as possible. I haven't yet been convinced. I haven't heard a compelling enough argument yet that he should be batting fourth in this lineup.
Fair, completely fair. I will not argue that. I could be convinced of anything. If Tatis is better as a leadoff hitter, put him leadoff. If he's better as a two-hole hitter, you know what I mean? It's it's also kind of chicken egg. By moving him, are you really making him a better player, to your point? And what version of Fernando Tatis Jr. are we getting? I want to ask you in general. This is, I guess I'll phrase the San Diego State question. And I see more of it probably than most because I'm spending too much time on the social media Aztec channels or the message board. But Darren, there's so much vitriol. They lose 2 games and people are like, teams quit. One foot out the door. I'm like, really? I mean, they led Grand Canyon at the half 2 days ago. They were 12-2 in the league. How do you deal with it? Listen, there'll be a time in the history of the SDFC franchise where it's not going to go perfectly. They'll have a 3-game losing streak. And what are people then? But I look at the track record. I look at Brian Dutcher. I look at Steve Fisher. And yes, have they reached expectations as of yet this year? I think it's fair to say no. They had really high expectations. But is it fair to say all the things that people are saying because they've lost 2 straight games?
I mean, I don't think so. I think they deserve benefit of the doubt based on what they've done. Sometimes it just doesn't work. It's basketball, and guys have been injured and they've been in and out, and not everything is some indictment on the program or on the coaching or on the players. I mean, sometimes it's just not there, it's just there's no chemistry, especially when some of your better players have been in and out. So, yeah, I mean, it's disappointing for sure. They still have time to turn this into a successful season, don't they? So, I wouldn't be pulling the plug just yet. Backs up against it clearly. But what will go a long way in fans' minds is to win tonight.
Yeah.
You win this game tonight, and you're on the air tomorrow, and you're talking about San Diego State being on top of the Mountain West Conference standings. So winning cures a lot of things, and I think we all know that. But yeah, I don't know. When I watch it, it just feels like something isn't firing. That's not firing on every cylinder. And again, maybe some of that is circumstantial based on some of the guys that have been in and out of the lineup, but. Yeah, I don't know that I see anybody quitting. I don't think they would stand for that. I mean, I just don't. The program doesn't stand for that. They would not allow that sort of stuff to happen. You're just not going to be one of those guys. Brian Dutcher and Dave Velasquez, they're not going to allow that. So I mean, I don't buy it. I think they're trying. It just hasn't come together like a lot of people thought. And that's just life. It's just sports. It just kind of happens sometimes. It's not an indictment of the program because we've seen how successful they've been over the years. It's just trying to figure out what that right combination is, and it's just taken way longer than any of us would have imagined.
Yeah, I think that's good perspective, and better than, again, I get it. It's social media. People, say whatever they want. It's, you take it with lots of grains of salt, obviously.
Of course, yeah. I mean, it's like it's like we said earlier, going back to SDFC. It's like. When the Chucky Lozano news started popping, it's like, oh, they're making a massive mistake. Yep. Well, they won 4-0. Well, they're not starting him again. They win 2-1. Oh, I can't believe they're not. Yep. Then they get through the first round. Well, they've got to start him now, and then they get through Minnesota. And eventually they lost the game. It's like, see,
yeah, exactly, 100%.
It's like, okay, I get it. So over a long enough timeline, you can pretty much make any prediction true. But I think these guys have earned enough credibility in the sport and in the city that if it's not clicking, it's probably not because they've changed or they're doing something philosophically wrong. It's just sometimes it doesn't happen. It doesn't click.
Agreed. Darren, real quick before you go, for our listeners, where can they find you right now? I mentioned Friar Territory. You're calling SDFC games right here on San Diego Sports 760. You're still active right now it's section 1904. What do you want our listeners to know about what you're doing right now?
Yeah, I'm all over the place. I don't even know where I am half of the time.
I hear you.
I don't know. I mean, it's sort of, the whole, we've had some changes, obviously, with the Section 1904 brand at the end of the year, but we're picking up the pieces there. So, Friar territory, 2-3 times a week, talking a little bit of Padres. We're doing some stuff with SDFC on the broadcasts. And if you follow along on social media, from time to time, we'll just be randomly pumping out podcasts. So be on the lookout for that.
D, appreciate you, man. Hope all is well, and we'll hear you this weekend calling SDFC right here on 760.
Big games tonight. Good luck, everybody.
Best of luck to your Johnnies tonight against Connecticut. Well, I said that interview was from 2 hours ago, and right now St. John's at Connecticut and trailing 47-31. No shame in that. UConn's 6th in the country and actually now leading by 19, 50-31. All right, on the other side, Michael King makes his spring debut. How did that turn out for the Padres? Getting you ready for Aztecs basketball tonight as well, coming up at 8 p.m. with pregame coverage at 7. Stay with us here on San Diego Sports 760. We're live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, SDFC back at Snapdragon Stadium Sunday night, taking on St. Louis City. Pre-game coverage with Adrian and Darren beginning at 5:30 right here on your home for SDFC, San Diego Sports 760. I think kickoff just after 6 on Sunday night for SDFC. All right, Aztecs at 8, pre-game coverage at 7. Michael King this afternoon in a Padres come-from-behind win made his spring Cactus League 2026 debut and pitched well enough, I would say. 2 2/3 innings, struck out 4, did allow 2 hits, including a solo home run. But, 2 2/3 innings, first time pitching in a half year, obviously with spring training underway, striking out 4. He is a bit of their key, he is their keystone. If King's good, you could be fully convinced the Padres could be really good. If he's that 30 start guy and working deep into games and has something like a 3 ERA. The issue a year ago was he just wasn't healthy. It wasn't anyone's fault, including Michael. He whatever happened, sleeping wrong or however that played out, back, neck injury, he missed a lot of time due to that, way too much time. But there's nothing you can truly do about it. Your health is obviously your priority. If he looks anything like 2024 or anything like the 10 starts he made to start 2025, the Padres should feel really good about the rotation. Now, if he misses more time or isn't the same pitcher, that's where it gets dicey because Joe Musgrove, we haven't seen in over a year, and we're hoping Nick Pivetta looks like Nick Pivetta. But I think for Michael King to get out there in February, this isn't slow playing things. This isn't waiting until a week before the season. He's being built up right now as a starter. So 2 2/3 innings today. Come, 20 days from now, presumably he's thrown 60 or 70 pitches in a spring outing and then is ready to go on opening day or, whenever he's going to throw, maybe not opening day, but whenever he's going to throw for the Padres. So I think a lot of the success of the season could hinge on Michael King. They gave him all the money. He's the only notable signing, Brent. They gave him $25 million per year or $75 million over 3, although he can opt out after this upcoming 2026 season. So a lot of their success as a rotation probably hinges on Michael King looking like Michael King, which, again, when he's been healthy, there's no reason to think he's not going to. This is a guy that went out there, has lived up to it. He's put up the numbers. He really has. Even last year, he makes 15 starts. He finishes the year with a 3.4 ERA. You're taking that every day of the week. The year prior in 2024, in 31 games, 30 starts, a 2.95 ERA. The year prior with the Yankees, primarily coming out of the bullpen, but did make 9 starts, he had a 2.75 ERA. And the year before that, coming out of the bullpen, he had a 2.29. This guy has delivered in his major league career. 3.24 lifetime ERA. He's still only 30 years of age. He does not have a lot of tread on his arm. He's thrown 494 big league innings because he's thrown out of a bullpen a lot to start his career with the Yankees. So there's plenty of upside with Michael King. 30 with 500 career innings. This isn't a guy with 2,000 innings on his arm, including the minor leagues. So you could argue that his best days are ahead of him, and even with him having all that success in 2024. So I do think it's encouraging that he was able to, get through 2 2/3 innings and strike out 4 here today for the Padres. Again, I'm not concerned about the results. They're going to beat some people. I don't care. I'm not concerned about the results. I am concerned about their health. And you're keeping an eye on, players that you're hoping to bounce back. Jackson Merrill, up and down year last year, had a double today. Michael King, again, out due to injury for half of the year, makes his spring debut. Ethan Salas appeared again in this game. So, you're just going to keep an eye on some of these names. You're going to watch it play out. We're only a few days away from, again, players leaving for their WBC spots. Toddy, Machado, Mason Miller, others. So there'll be opportunities for guys like, King and Pivetta and whomever else to get themselves ready for opening day as well. But yeah, I think that it's encouraging that Michael King, it's not like he went 2/3 of an inning and gave up 6 hits, 6 runs. A couple of years ago, Joe Musgrove gave up 6 runs, maybe more, in his spring debut. And we're that cannot be a good sign. And it wasn't, by the way. So whenever you debut and have a level of success, I think it's encouraging. And I'm not going to get I'm not going to lose sleep over the numbers. I'm not going to be like, well, if you went 3 innings, it's a great outing. And if you only went 1 2/3, it's not. You just want health. You want to have a building block, and you want to use it to get ready for the season. And it sounds like Michael King was able to do that here earlier today. All right, Aztecs basketball again coming up at 8 with our pregame coverage at 7 p.m. We have Brent's back page ahead as well. Here until 6. Stay with us. San Diego Sports 760. We are live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by Red Pilled America. The Padres had a spring training game today against the Angels, which they won 7-3. The Aztecs are at home tonight at Viejas Arena to take on Utah State. Our pregame coverage with Fletch will begin a little after 7, and John will have the tip after 8.
Why are there so many big tech monopolies? This week on Red Pilled America, we tell the untold origin story of YouTube and how its founders hijacked the idea for a video sharing site to build a Silicon Valley behemoth. Listen to Red Pilled America on the iHeartRadio app.
All right, San Diego Sports 760 leading you up to Aztecs Hoops tonight at 8 with pregame coverage at 7. Brent's back page is ahead. We should note that last night, San Diego State baseball beat the number 1 team in the country in Westwood. They took down number 1 UCLA. I don't know if you saw ESPN on social media had a post about the insanity of college baseball last night. There were 4 top 10 teams that all lost at home last night, including UCLA to San Diego State. We've had, by the way, the Aztecs' first-year head coach Kevin Vance on the show. You talk about a shot in the arm for a program that's heading to the Pac-12. They're going to be playing programs like Oregon State. They've won a national championship, I think, 3 times this century, maybe 4, I think 3. Like, this is a great start to that era to go to Westwood and beat number 1 UCLA. So congratulations to the Aztecs. Not the only team, right? There were 3 other teams that were upset.
Yeah, the Aztecs beat number 1 UCLA on the road 4-3. Number 2 LSU lost at home to McNeese.
Crazy.
7-6. Number 5 Georgia Tech, they lost at home to Georgia State 9-4. And Arkansas lost at home. They were number 6. Arkansas lost at home to Arkansas State. They got their asses kicked 12-4.
You know, I think some of that, by the way, speaks to baseball. like we say sometimes, the Rockies win 50 games. Like they I mean, maybe they didn't even win 50 because they were historically bad. But think about that. In what other sport? Now they play 100-something games, but 50 wins. 50 times they win. And oftentimes the best against the worst is only winning 2 out of every 3 times. Like, that's pretty crazy to say. There have been years where the Pirates have won the season series over the Dodgers. When the Pirates win, or excuse me, the Pirates have won the season series over the Dodgers in years where the Pirates win 60 games, but go 4-2 against LA. So that's the beauty of a sport like baseball. Paul Skenes today, we touched on Tariq Skubal pitching for Team USA and how he's going to make just 1 appearance. Paul Skenes said today that Team USA has all the motivation it needs after watching the success of Team USA in the Winter Olympics. So the team, according to Skenes, will be motivated by, playing for the country. Now, remember with Paul Skenes, here's an interesting note. He pitched for a military academy. He pitched at the Air Force Academy before he ended up at LSU. And then, of course, before he was the number 1 overall pick to Pittsburgh. But he talked about the importance of just winning being the biggest thing. And the thing with Skenes is he hasn't won professionally. He's won nothing. Now, he's been incredible, but he's won nothing with Pittsburgh, obviously. You could argue he hasn't even pitched a meaningful game as of yet in his career. He'll be pitching in meaningful games this March for Team USA, and I bet it's something he is looking forward to. I get it. Like, the Pirates, 2 months into a season, have nothing to play for. So, yeah, are you going to get up for the Brazil game, March 6th, if you're Paul Skenes? Probably, because you've spent the last 2 years pitching for the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I think in it being an Olympic year and seeing some of the success play out over the last week with Team USA women's hockey, Team USA men's hockey, obviously now iconically with Jack Hughes, I'm buying into that, what Paul Skenes is saying, that, from a patriotic perspective, putting on a uniform with your nation's colors and name on it has some value. And again, I think to the point I'm trying to make, it's like, it's been a while since Paul Skenes has pitched in a big game. I would imagine he did it at LSU, obviously, but between college and professional baseball, it's probably been 3 years since Paul Skenes has pitched in like a really meaningful game.
Well, it's like you said, his World Series is going to come, 2 weeks before the season even starts.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Because in 2 months from now, what's he going to have, to look forward to? Not much.
They spent a little bit of money. I'm not expecting them to be good. They've got maybe, according to the analytics, a 20-something% chance of maybe being a playoff team. I don't buy that. That to me would be very surprising. This is also the beauty of the sport and the curse of the sport is you can have Paul Skenes and you can be awful. And you can have Mike Trout in his prime and you can be not very good. And you can have Shohei Ohtani in his prime. So it takes so much more than that. And listen, Skenes could win 22 games, which is hard to do in the major leagues. And your team could be a complete abject failure because he's only going to appear, 18 to 20% of the games that the Pirates are going to play this year. Now, at some point, will they build around him? This has been the question since they've drafted him, obviously. And it's now or never. They either, win the 86 games and find their way into the postseason and they're one of the talks of the sport, or I think, there'll be a lot of chatter about him getting moved. I don't think he's moved this trade deadline. This is his 3rd year in the major leagues. He's controllable for 6 years. I think early is him being moved in his 4th year. That's when Juan Soto was moved for the Nationals in his fourth year. So I think a third-year trade, while he would command as much value as any player in recent baseball history, I wouldn't anticipate it because I think the stain on the Pirates would be so significant. Now, I don't think it's going to look good if they trade him next year either, 2027 or 2028, but give it another college try in 2026 and 2027 is what I would say. And if ultimately you need to move on, you need to move on. Certainly he's not signing a free agent deal in Pittsburgh. He'd be a cult hero. They'd probably build a statue even if he never pitched in one postseason game. If he were to, sign an extension with Pittsburgh, how could you possibly do it? What would be the reason to do it? So, but I do think you got a year or two where maybe you can try to win 85 games with Paul Skenes leading the way.
The only thing I could say for why he might stay is they did make some effort this year to sign some players. They did. They didn't get anybody big, but they made more effort than they have in years past. And, according to ESPN, when they did their, farm system rankings a couple months ago, and we talked about it, Pittsburgh's got the third best farm system in all of baseball.
Yep.
So all it takes, they got 4 prospects in the top 100. If they would all hit around the same time within the next 2 or 3 years, I could see them being competitive in the Central or in the North.
Maybe. I mean, not to spend 10 minutes on the Pirates, but they've had a lot of good systems before, and they had a blip with Andrew McCutchen in his prime when they made the playoffs 3 straight years, but never got out of the wild card. But honestly, would it be? This is what we're talking about with the CBA. Right. I think what people want to see is, can Pittsburgh be competitive? Now, some of this is on Pittsburgh, clearly, their ownership and their spending. Like, this can't just be a CBA conversation. But if you're a Padres fan, would you prefer to see a world in which the Pirates could build around Paul Skenes and be relevant? Is that something that benefits San Diego? Because again, San Diego's never going to be Philadelphia in sheer television market size. Never going to be New York, certainly. Or even Los Angeles, obviously, up the road. So is it helpful when teams like Milwaukee and Pittsburgh are in position to contend? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, on one hand, if you're San Diego, you're like, listen, if we're trying and they're not, that puts us in a position to get into the postseason. If all of a sudden the rules are equaled and there's more parity in the sport, maybe it's harder for a team like San Diego to get into the postseason. Right now, going in, certain teams are getting nowhere near the playoffs. The Miamis of the world, historically the Pittsburghs, not Milwaukee.
The Rockies.
Yeah, Colorado right now, obviously. So right now, that there's 6 spots in the National League, and let's say there's 8 teams competing for those 6. If on the other side of the CBA, 10 or 11 or 12 teams are truly going for it, and the rules are more evened out to afford teams like Pittsburgh an opportunity to compete at a higher level, what does that mean for a team like San Diego? Does it make it harder to get to the postseason? But I think ultimately it's better for the game if we believe heading into the year that more than just a handful of the teams can win a World Series, and that 10 of the teams, we said this earlier this week, 10 of the teams right now at Fangraphs do not have a 1% chance of winning the World Series, and it's February. You don't even have a 1% chance. There's only 30 teams. So theoretically, all things being equal, every team would have a 3.3% chance. We know that's not the case. It's not communism. The Dodgers have invested more than Pittsburgh. So yeah, of course, the Dodgers have a better chance to win the World Series than Pittsburgh. But Fangraphs says the Padres have a 0.5% chance of winning the World Series. 1 in 200 or 200 to 1 odds. That's not the best way to head into a year when fans of teams think that they don't have a chance to win. Now, I don't think Padres fans feel that way, but I think Pirates fans do. Even with their, to Brent's point, minor moves and improved spending, they've still never signed a free agent player for more than $39 million. I think in the history of the franchise. Maybe they did this offseason. I think Francisco Liriano was their richest free agent deal. They've extended players for more than $39 million or whatever the number was, 30 or 40 million, but they hadn't signed a player as a free agent to a deal larger than that. And I think they may have done it this offseason. But think about that. Other teams are spending $700 million on individual players. And the Pirates haven't spent $30 million on a free agent contract in their history.
They didn't do it this year, but they did spend $29 million on Ryan O'Hearn for 2 years.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a level of investment, but I mean, 29 million on a player. Like, let's be honest. There's players getting $100+ million every day in professional sports. So, while you credit the Pirates to some extent because they really haven't done that, still, like, what is it going to take to get them to spend the, $3 or $75 million deal on Michael King? They've never had a deal like that in the history of the franchise.
I think it's going to pretty much the day Paul Skenes walks into their general manager's office and it's just like, all right, I've had enough of this stuff. You guys either make a serious push and show me that you are actually serious about building a team around me and winning, or I'm out. And
I think it's
just
that.
trade me.
Yeah. No, I would agree.
They'll force their hand.
Yeah, I would agree. And I do think it would be an amazing baseball and sports story if Pittsburgh with Paul Skenes was good. Now, again, from a San Diego perspective, whatever. And still to this day, Paul Skenes has never faced the San Diego Padres in 2 years.
He's ducking us.
And maybe it happens this year, maybe not. But would it be a great story? Yeah, because people have been enamored with Skenes. They just have not been infatuated with the Pittsburgh Pirates. All right, we're going to get to Brent's back page coming up on the other side. Again, a reminder, Aztec basketball tonight, this big showdown between the Aztecs and Utah State. It feels like forever for this game to have gotten here since Saturday when the Aztecs went to Fort Collins and lost by 9 to CSU. But finally, we're here just a couple hours out. San Diego State and Utah State, we've got you covered. I'll have the call for you at 8 p.m. Our pregame coverage will begin at 7 p.m. We have Brent's back page on the other side right here on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, San Diego Sports 760 for a final time. Again, a programming reminder as later on tonight, Ben Fletcher has our pregame coverage at 7 p.m. We'll be from our San Diego Sports 760 studios this evening. And then I'll be courtside from Steve Fisher Court at Viejas Arena, second of two regular season meetings between the Aztecs and the Utah State Aggies. They could, of course, meet again in the Mountain West Conference Tournament, which is only 2 weeks away. I think the quarterfinal round of the Mountain West Tournament is 2 weeks from tomorrow. San Diego State hoping to get a bye to that round. And again, if they win tonight, they've got a share of first place with 3 to play. If they win tonight, they'll be tied atop the Mountain West with Utah State with 3 games to play going to New Mexico.
I'm kind of chuckling. We got the St. John's UConn game on, and UConn is just obliterating the Johnnies right now by 31. And I'm just thinking about poor Darren. I'm like, well, at least he's got the Knicks.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
No, that's kind of a joke too.
How about this? St. John's tonight, they just flashed up on the screen. There's 5 minutes left. They have 11 field goals. They're 11 for 51 in this game. So college basketball, who knows? And we'll see if San Diego State can snap its mini 2-game slide here tonight. Coming up again just after 8 p.m. All right, let's get to it.
I only got a couple things today because
Okay.
one of the stories, it turns out, because unlike my predecessor, I read the story before I went on air with it, and it turns out it was
Ireland?
fake.
Oh,
No,
it was
it was
fake.
fake. Yes, there was a story floating around that the Mets were going to have this thing called a hot dog bowl, where is gonna be like 12 hot dogs crammed in a big baseball
amazing.
helmet for like $13. I was gonna do that, but it turns out it's fake.
Okay, so good.
It doesn't have to be fake. Somebody can, do a hot dog helmet. I'd
Right.
buy it. It looks cool.
Right.
But we're going to start with Starbucks. They are unveiling a brand new drink for the spring that is for the refresher crowd, for, the people that don't really go to Starbucks to drink coffee. They just drink those, fruity drinks with enough sugar to make you a type 3 diabetic.
Right.
Well, Starbucks starting March 3rd is adding a new refresher called the Pink Cannonball drink to their spring menu. I guess it's a takeoff of the original Cannonball refresher, which will stay on the menu beyond its limited run. And you can get a cold foam Cannonball through the app. Let's see. Where was it? It was a take of, what is it? They're like pink dragon fruit. Their big thing is, if you look at it, it's like this pink fluorescent color. So they think lots of people are going to buy it just so they can take pictures of it for their Instagram and stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, so you can go get the new Cannonball refresher starting on March 3rd. So not until next week at Starbucks.
I wouldn't think, when I think Starbucks, I don't think Cannonball refresher.
I don't
Do you?
either, but I'm not an overly huge coffee guy. So if, I was forced to go to Starbucks on like a date or something like that, and I had to get something.
You would get something like that.
I'd probably get a refresher opposed to a coffee.
That to me reminds me, like for Starbucks, that reminds me more of like Sonic. Where you have like a colorful drink.
Oh
and you
yeah,
get
yeah,
the
yeah.
Like Starbucks to me is all kinds of variations of coffee, and they get cute there. But to go to the refreshing type drink.
Oh, do they have lots of them? I remember the one time, what was it? We were doing like a secret menu thing when Rich was on the show,
Right.
and we were just going to get like the craziest thing that we could find on their secret menu. And yeah, they have, your plain, lattes and everything else, but then they also have things that look like, unicorn vomit, because it's just like bright pink with sprinkles and whipped cream and all this other stuff, to where it's just like, you see people drink, is like, aren't you kind of embarrassed to drink that? That's like the equivalent of like the umbrella drink.
I know.
It's like coffee.
I wonder what % of the drinks they sell are coffee. It's got to be a massive %. I think they just have the other stuff just because. It's like having like a vegan burger available for me. Still, most people are eating burgers, in general. And then, okay, yeah, we have a vegan or a vegetarian option. But like Starbucks, like Come on. Their revenues have to be solely based on coffee.
Approximately 74 to 75% of beverages sold at Starbucks are cold drinks, including cold brews, iced coffees, and frappuccinos.
Yeah, that makes sense. But 75%. Okay, that's interesting. That makes sense, though. All right, what else you have?
Do you like ketchup, John?
Yeah.
Do you like ketchup enough that you would buy a keg of it?
No, I would not buy a keg.
Actual keg. It's a 144 ounce keg
That's
of ketchup.
That's kind of cool. It looks like a keg.
Yes,
mini keg.
Yes. Heinz makes it. Apparently, they came out around the Super Bowl time, but it's starting to get more press because I guess they had a couple of them in the Olympic Village. Because I guess the biggest hit in the Olympic Village, besides them running out of condoms, was the thing with they had a Nutella dispenser, so it was this big tub of Nutella, and I guess that was what everybody in the village was going nuts for. But I guess they also had one of these, and Heinz is calling it a ketchup,
like a keg chip.
Yeah,
ketchup.
Which is good.
Keg chip.
Yeah, KEGCHUP.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. But yeah, you can get the ketchup, which is a beer style keg filled with 114 ounces of ketchup. Let's see, how much do they want for that thing? I think you can still get them, but yeah, they said it's almost 20 inches tall and it has a spout on it. It kind of sounds like if you go to Carl's Jr. or something like that, they'd have the big thing of ketchup and mustard. So it sounds like you can just get one of those from home. And they don't have the price on it.
I mean, it doesn't look cheap. I'm looking at it right now. I mean, the thing's huge. But when would you need this?
I don't know, parties. Family reunions or graduation parties or something like that where, you would need 114 ounces of ketchup. And, it's not like, ketchup, it's condiment. It's not like it's, a banana to where in 2 weeks it's going to go bad. You got to throw it away. You can probably, use that same ketchup for over a year. So,
dude, I'll say this. Since we were kids to now, Heinz has they've been outside the box, haven't they? It used to just be Heinz ketchup or mustard. And now it's they've everything. They've thought of everything. I thought it was one of the great inventions of the 21st century when you could just squeeze ketchup out of a plastic bottle.
I know.
Because it used to be so annoying. How annoying. I still think about honey this way. Honey to me is so annoying because you have those little honey bears and you put them in the fridge, for example, and then you turn upside down. It takes forever for the honey to come out. I'm hasn't anyone in the history of mankind thought of a better way to get honey quicker? That is my biggest knock on honey. Honey's great, but I don't want to wait 4 minutes for it.
Don't put it in the fridge.
Yeah. Why do people put it in the fridge?
I don't know. I don't think you have to refrigerate it. My parents never used to refrigerate it.
Good point. All right. You solved it. All right. If you missed anything today, sportssd.com, iHeartRadio app, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, or Spotify. Rejoin us tonight at 7 p.m. for pregame coverage of San Diego State and Utah State, this Mountain West showdown with first place, a share of first place on the line for the Aztecs tonight at VA House Arena. For Sammy, who was here earlier, and Brent, I'm John. Keep it here. This is San Diego Sports 760